A New North. Unconventional_sucker. Summary. What if Ned was the firstborn child of Ricard and Lyra? What if Ned had been born a prodigy? How would the Game of Thrones change if the North became a powerhouse which could triumph the rest of the kingdoms? Alternate universe. North began to gather its power 20 years prior to Robert's rebellion. I suck at writing summaries. Chapter 1, Planning. Chapter Text. 261 AC. Winterfell. As he made his way towards his father's solar Eddard, Ned Stark thought about how his young life had been so far. He was barely 6 moons away from his 7th name day. Ned Stark was born a prodigy. He had started talking when he was barely a year old and started walking 2 moons later. He could remember everything since he was barely 3 moons old and could remember every conversation since he was 7 moons old. He remembers every word that he had ever read. He could remember every move made in the yard just by seeing the tilts. When he reached his father's solar, he knocked twice and then entered after hearing his father say, "Come in." In the solar were his parents, Lord Ricard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and Lady Lyra Stark née Karstark. At 25 and 6 feet 5 inches tall and 23 and 6 feet tall, the Lord and Lady of Winterfell made an imposing sight. Also present was Maester Wallers. For the past 4 years Ned had spent a lot of time with the Maester, learning. Be it reading, writing, languages, numbers, history or geography, Wallers always marveled at the young lord's ability to understand and remember new information. "Father, Mother, Maester Wallers," Ned said in greeting. "Ah, yes Ned, come in. Sit down, child. Maester Wallers was just filling us in. You want to continue your education at the Citadel? Is that right?" his father asked. "Yes, father. I have finished all that I could study here in Winterfell. I want to forge my links at the Citadel. I am ready to go to Old Town, father," Ned replied to his father. "Leave us," Lord Ricard commanded to the Maester. Once he left, he continued, "Ned, I know that you are a very bright child. But why do you want to go to Old Town? If you have finished with your education, why not start your training in martial combats? You are my heir. Do you really wish to join the Maester's conclave and leave your place as the heir to the North?" "I am sorry, father, you misunderstood me. I am going to the Citadel only forge my links. I will not be leaving my place as your heir. As for martial combat, Sir Roderick would go with me to the Citadel not only as my escort but also as my trainer. If everything goes as per my plan, I will forge my links in Ravenry, medicine and healing, math and economics, warcraft, animal husbandry and farming, cartography, geography, smithing and finally in magic. It will take no more than 3 years for me to complete it," Ned replied. His father scoffed. "You may be bright, but even you cannot do all this in 3 years. If you do not believe me, father, then give me a moon and I will show you my project that I am working on right now. I can guarantee you, you will not repent your judgment," Ned said. "What project are you talking of, my sweet?" Lyra Stark asked for the first time since the conversation started. "Father, and you always ask me why I am trying to teach Mikan the blacksmith and some other servants how to read letters. Well, it was a part of my plan. Right now it takes anywhere between a week to a moon to copy a book. When my project is completed, I can make several copies of a book in a single day. All it would require is a skilled blacksmith and some people who can read and write," explained Ned to his mother. "Surely you are jesting, my son." "It simply cannot be done," said a baffled Lord Stark. "It can be done, father. Give me a month and I will show it to you," was the curt reply. "But son, why do you need to study all those subjects?" asked Lady Stark. "I want to study these subjects because I want knowledge, mother. Knowledge is power, mother. Right now all this power rests with the Maesters. I will go to the Citadel and study these subjects and discreetly try to make as many copies of the books of the Citadel as possible with the help of my machine. There are over 40,000 books in the Citadel. I will try to make at least 1 copy of each of the books so that we can make more copies of them later. With these books we can train our small folk in their required areas like farming and husbandry to the farmers or warcraft to the soldiers," replied Ned. "Is it necessary, son? To teach the small folk of such things will take time which they can better use in productivity," asked Lord Stark. It may take time to teach the current generation, but I am talking about the future generations, father. Small children who right now spend time just playing around and not doing anything productive are to be trained first. Then once they take over their parents' job or create a new job for themselves, will we start giving these educations to the older generations. For too long has the North remained stagnant. We have always looked for just survivability and nothing else. I intend to change it, father, replied Ned. Okay, son. Let us not get ahead of ourselves. After this meeting I will call Mikan and tell him to work with you for the next moon. Make your device, and if it works we will send you to Old Town, but if you fail we will not have this talk again. You will remain in the North and start your martial training. Is that clear? Said Lord Stark. Yes, father, replied Ned. 1 moon later. Well, son, it looks like you are going to Old Town. How in the name of the old gods and new did you make this work? Asked Lord Stark. I will not bore you with the details, father, but let us just say that it was quite easy. We just have to rearrange the gears which are used in portcullis, but on a smaller scale, said Ned. His father just kept watching the machine with awe. If may I ask, father, please do not mention this to Maester Wallace. I want to keep this device a secret for as long as possible, asked Ned. He did not want to keep the device a secret just in the North, but he did not trust Maester Wallace enough. He was sure that if he learnt of this device he would tell the Maesters about it and his mission in Old Town would become very difficult. He did not trust the Maesters, especially Maester Wallace, for not using the device for personal gains. His father just nodded and asked, what else would you require for your journey and stay at Old Town, son? I will be taking these men and women to the south with me. And also, if possible, would you be able to buy me a small mansion in Old Town? It will be better if I stay there and not at the Citadel or some tavern. His father just nodded. 1 year later. The mansion, Old Town. It had been several moons since Ned had arrived at Old Town. His stay here had been very productive for him till now. His training with Sir Roderick was going very well. He was able to master every move shown by Sir Roderick instantly and able to perform them masterfully after 1 or 2 tries. He had almost reached half of his education on West AOC style of fighting, and in 8 to 10 moons more he will be able to master it completely. His education at the Citadel was going excellently as well. He had a whole lot of new information, and all that information was also being copied by his people without any problems. It was because of these new informations that he was currently waiting for his Lord Father here at his mansion. When he first came to the Citadel he had found out that there were reports on surveys made by each kingdoms, be it on population or land. He had the survey on population of the North, but there were no records of land surveys. Thinking that the Lords of North had simply forgotten to update/send the records to the Citadel, he had written to his father about this matter and asked him to send the said records. It was then that he had gotten the shock of his life. He had always wondered why the North did not produce at least as much gold as the Westerlands. The North had at least thrice the amount of mountains than the Westerlands. He always thought that the Lords had done a survey but had found nothing. But his father's letter had changed his perspective. It seemed that the idea of a land survey had never come to the previous Lords of the North. After receiving his father's letter he had immediately written back to him and asked him to hire someone from Essos to undertake this task. It had taken 6 moons to complete this task, but the results were astounding. From gold to copper to iron, all kinds of minerals and some very precious gems, some of them found only in their mines. Everything that they could possibly need, they had it there. They even had 3 new types of minerals. 2 were something the surveyors were calling aluminium and platinum. As soon as he got his father's letters he had asked his father to send him samples of all the minerals, new and old, to him. It had arrived a moon later. So that was what he had been doing for the past 5 moons. Experimenting and finding out new techniques for metal working and finding out the properties of the new materials. Aluminium, while being very light, was strong and rust-free, whereas platinum was very malleable and strong. So now here he was waiting for his father to arrive so that he could tell his father about the metals and also tell him about the plan he had for the North. Soon his father arrived, and after greeting him and he asked him about his siblings Brandon and Lyanna and about his mother. It was then that he got to know that his mother was with child again. After celebrating it with his father for a while he left him alone so that his father could rest from his travels. The next morning the father-son duo met in Ned's solar. Sir Roderick was also there sitting with them. "So tell me, son, what did you want to talk to me about?" asked Ricard. "Father, have you read this report?" "Aye, son. I have, and I am completely surprised that no other lord had thought about this. Father, hear me out. I have planned through which the whole of the North can profit from." "Okay, tell me about this plan of yours." "We have approximately 857,000 people living in the North as per the last survey, which was done 20 years ago. The population has not changed much in these years. The gold, silver and copper mines are all concentrated in single mountain range which comes under the Sawins, or I thought so. These mountains are not inhabited by anyone and comes under no one's jurisdiction, as they are full of wild animals. I plan to take these lands back and to start the construction of 2 keeps as soon as possible. The 2 keeps will be made at the only entrance to these mountain ranges. One to the north and the other to the south. Once the construction is complete, we start mining gold, silver and copper. Winterfell's coffers currently have approximately 800,000 gold dragons in them. We use these funds to build these keeps. We will employ around 90,000 people at each of these castles to work day and night to complete the castles in 2 years. But son, the funds that we have right now are for when we will need to buy food during winter, and to employ so many people would mean a decrease in crop production. We will be starving during winter with these plans of yours. I am getting to the point of food, father. There is a special kind of cow north of the wall. They are called as yaks. They are very resilient to cold and hunger, and with the right pastures we can breed them for meat and milk. They also as strong as oxes, so they can be used for transport also. I plan to capture them and bring back as many of them as possible and give them to the Sawins, as they have the best lands for pasture. As winter has just ended, we can take time to breed them and use their milk and such. If we can capture 100 female and a dozen male yaks, we can have several thousand of them during the next winter for meat. Will they truly survive the northern winter? And why is it the first time we are hearing about these yaks? Father, they have survived winters north of the wall for thousands of years. They will fare much better living south of the wall. The Sawins would be for the north what the Red Winds are for the Reach, but only they will be trading in meat and leather. They will be the butchers and tanners of the north. I hope that they will make enough money and become very rich. We are hearing of this for the first time, father, because the fucking Maestas wanted us to starve during winter, and so that we would have to buy food from the Reach. This is the reason why I wanted to come south to further my studies. The Maestas, on the orders of first the Andals and then under the Gardeners and Tyrells, have starved north for thousands of years. Surely they won't be so cruel, his father asked. Father, they are as cruel as any of the southern lords. They need protection and funding, so they do the dirty work of their masters in order to have it. The Order of the Maestas may be an order which does not participate in the affairs of the realm, but they do manipulate the affairs of the realm. His father just sat there taking it all in. Also, father, I plan to introduce a new type of crop to the north. We have thousands of acres of swamp and marshes in the neck. I plan to introduce rice. It is a type of crop which would do well in the neck and areas surrounding the Long Lake, Fever River and White River. I plan to clear at least 1,000 acres of land in the neck and start farming there and all along the southern end of the Long Lake and both banks of the rivers. Rice once harvested needs only to be kept dry and free from rats and such. They do not rot for several years as compared to wheat. Truly, son. From where can we get this crop? You will have to import it from Yeti, as it is grown there. But first, in these 2 years we have to clear the swamps and dig small canals along the lake and rivers. After 2 years, once the castles are complete and we can start mining the resources, we import rice seeds and start its production. For that we would need to bring in 1,000 to 2,000 Yetish people so that they could settle here and train our people on how to produce it. We will also increase the production of potatoes and onions and peas. Okay, we will do as you say, but till now you have solved the food shortage and made House Stark very rich. But what about the rest of the northern houses? Okay, so we have the mountain clans first. They have a lot of iron, aluminium and titanium in those mountains in which they reside. Their main occupation from now on would be steel works. They will make weapons for the north. But how come they will become rich from this weapon crafting? Because, father, they will not be crafting any steel but rather northern steel. Northern steel. And pray tell, what in the name of the old gods and the new is this northern steel? Sir Roderick, if you may. Sir Roderick took out 2 steel longswords. Both of them were almost identical, just a small difference in color of the 2 blades. Father, what you are holding is a sword made of northern steel which I made, and the one held by Sir Roderick is the regular steel sword made by these Southrons. Swing your swords at each other, Ned said as he stepped back. Ricard looked at Ned skeptically before swinging the sword at Sir Roderick. Both swords met, and after a couple of clashes the sword held by Sir Roderick shattered from the middle. What was that? How did that sword break so easily? Even with Valyrian steel swords it takes more than a couple of swings before castle-forged steel breaks, exclaimed Ricard. Well, father, you remember how we found 3 new ores in the north? 2 of them are aluminium and titanium. Yes, but the third one is useless. It's too brittle. That is because it is not a ore, father, but rather a fuel. Like wood, it can burn, and after burning completely it leaves ash and not charcoal. It is called coal, father, and it produces more heat than wood. Using coal I melted iron, and into it I added some amount of aluminium and titanium to make it lighter but maintain its strength, and the end result is this. I named it Northern Steel. It may be slightly heavier than Valyrian steel but is lighter than the normal castle-forged steel. It may also be stronger than Valyrian steel, son. We, that is Sir Roderick and me, do think so, father, but we have no way to prove it because Valyrian steel swords are very rare and if broken very hard to reforge. Okay, so using Northern Steel you plan to make the mountain clans as rich as Qohor. But there is a problem, son. They mountain clans don't live together. They live peacefully but not together. Not yet, father. But I plan to make a city for the mountain clans. The city which will be built for them would be made high in the mountain ranges. They will be ruled by the city's council, and any disputes will be solved by Winterfell. There will be no lord, but the city council will be made up of leaders of all clans irrespective of their sizes, and they will get equal votes on the council. The mountains will come under the jurisdiction of the council. They will be the one to decide how and who will be mining the ores and who will be the ones to do the crafting and such. So who will pay for this city? We will, father. After we start the mining we will be the ones paying for their city. They will have to either pay an increased amount of taxes or will have to provide some amount of weapons and armor for winter wolves, sea wolves and weirwood warriors for free. Winter wolves, sea wolves and weirwood warriors. Now what in the name of the old gods and the new are they? We will come to that later, father. Okay, so the mountain city would be the new Qohor. No, father, Qohor only deals with steel and swords. I plan to make the city of mountain clans a place where all types of metal items are made. Aluminium is present in huge amounts in the north. It is more common than copper. For a single coin of copper small folk can buy a plate or other utensils, and as it is stronger than clay it won't break for several years. Also I plan to give the mountain clans the gem mines found in there. They are not as plenty as in the southern gem caves we found, but between the 2 of them I can guarantee that they will be very rich. The northern lords will buy weapons from them for their men at arms, the small folk will buy their utensils, and lords and ladies from all over Westeros would like to buy their jewelry. You don't plan on selling Northern Steel to the south, do you? No, father. I do not. We should have all the elements of surprise that we can have. Well, you won't hear me complain, his father grumbled under his breath. Ned just chuckled. We will start construction of a new keep and port towns at the bifurcation of White Knife and Broken Knife. Old Castle and Wolf's Den would be renewed. A new castle and city will be made at Seawolf Point. Deepwood Motte, Bear Island, White Harbor and Carhold will get new shipwrights which will make ships for the whole of the north. Dreadfort will also be made into a city through which a lot of trade would pass. The Boltons will not be happy with that alone. I know, father. They are currently the biggest producers of wheat, corn, barley and rye. What I want them to do is that they buy some sugar from the neck and add them all together in casks and leave them alone for the next 2 to 3 years and slowly increase this amount till the casks are left alone for nearly 10-11 years. This will ferment the wheat, corn, barley and rye, and after a few more steps and we would have something which would have a lot more alcohol than the wine that we drink right now. It was suggested to me by an acolyte to me who was doing research on this matter. He is a low-level acolyte and may permanently move to the north if I ask him. He researched this process completely on his own, but the maesters here do not pay much mind to him. How do you know how much alcohol the drink contained? Did you have a drink? Ned reddened as heat rushed up his face. No, father, it was Sir Roderick who took a drink and he told me about it. He also told me that it heated him up so much so that he was sweating as if he was in dawn. Maybe we could look into it and it may help the elder people during winter. Ned mumbled. He may be a prodigy and very smart, but he was still only 8 years old. Good, see to it that you don't drink any alcoholic drink before you turn 6, and 10 Ricard snipped before continuing. Okay son. I will talk to Lord Bolton about this, and after 2 years the Acolyte can join us in the north. Thank you father. If you could ask Lord Bolton to also increase his production of the crops to as high as possible, then it would be better. I will talk to him. Then next come the Umbers. They currently only have some sheep which they use for wool. With the amount of pasture land that they have, they should easily have at least 20 times the sheep they have and increase their amount of wool produced accordingly. But yet they don't. Yeah, those damned wildlings steal and kill their sheep. I know father. That is why we will be making 4 new keeps here in the foot of the mountains. The only pass through these mountains are through these passes where the keep will be. The wildlings will be either forced to take the keeps, which will be impossible, or keep their raiding north of these mountains and out of Umberlands and the whole north. But son, these ranges fall under the jurisdiction of the Night's Watch. It falls under the new gift. I know father. You have to convince the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch to relinquish the new gift back to the Starks. It is the Lord Commander you will have to convince, as only he can give it back to us. It said so in the contract under which the Night's Watch got the new gift. The lands south of the mountains are fertile, so we could expand agriculture further. We will grow potatoes, onions and peas here. Okay son, I will try my best to ensure that the new gift is returned to us. There will be 1,000 Weirwood warriors stationed at each one of these keep during peacetime and 600 of them during the time of war. This is the second time you have mentioned them. What are these Weirwood warriors? I will come to it father. The Carstarks and Hornwoods will make money by selling trees. Carstarks to Bravos and the Hornwoods to the northern shipwrights. The Hornwoods will also start growing grapes and then start producing wine. The Hornwood wine will be better than those produced by the Dornish and the Uber, because the lands and climate the Hornwoods have is more suited for growing grapes. This will produce better yield and better quality wine than the Uber. They will also build a new port city at the start of the middle branch of the Broken Branch. From here they will export the wine. By now Ricard knew that Ned was speaking the truth and just went with the flow. The Carstarks along with the Scargacy will also become the fishers of the north on the eastern coast, and the Mormonts and castles of Seawolf Point will be the same on the western coast. The Scarsgacy are the ones that are most angry with Winterfell and often accuse us of forgetting them. But not after this. The Scargacy have the most amount of gem mines in all of the north and some mines of ores and copper, but no gold or silver. They will mine these gems and ores and sell them to the rest of the West Eos and Essos. They will have a powerful naval presence and they will fish for food. They also have these stones. He placed 2 big shiny stones on the table. One was black and the other grey. These stones are the ones that we will use to make the new keeps and castles. It is so because these stones, while they look like granites, are 100 times more stronger than them. This is also the stone and that will be used to reconstruction of Moat Cailin. You want to reconstruct Moat Cailin? Asked his father-in-law. Our family has for generations wanted to reconstruct Moat Cailin. But due to lack of funds we were unable to do so in the past. Yes, but now that problem has been solved. Moat Cailin will be reconstructed and its reconstruction will begin in 3 years' time. By that time we would have enough funds for the building and reconstruction work to start. We will also be reconstructing Winterfell. But why do we need to reconstruct Winterfell? For many reasons. The Skagstone walls will be stronger than the current walls. Many towers currently need repair. It will be easier to just tear them down and remake them. The grounds of Winterfell are currently uneven. We will even them so that we can use all the land available to us, and we will further expand Winterfell for what I have in mind. Currently Winterfell covers a total ground of 24 acres. I plan to enlarge it to 60 acres in total, including the 2 acres taken by the Godswood. So much area. What for? There will be many more institutions introduced to the north. Some of them will have their headquarters in Winterfell. We will also increase the size of the outer walls to 150 feet. The inner walls will be 200 feet tall. All towers will be of 500 feet and will be joined together by a series of bridges 300 feet above the ground. The 5 towers will all have a diameter of 600 feet. The towers would represent X if seen from the air. It would look magnificent. But if the towers will be so tall, then I better learn to climb so many stairs, his father japed. Do not worry, father, there will be 6 to 8 elevators as that at Castle Black, for each tower. So you do not need to worry about that. Ricard just gave a smile at that thought. As for Moat Cailin, we will increase the number of walls from 3 to 4. The 4th wall would protect the town and port that I plan to make at Moat Cailin. A canal would be dug connecting the bight to Moat Cailin. The canal will be wide enough to let 3 war galleys or 4 merchant ships to pass through side by side. The rest of the walls of Moat Cailin would be made taller. The newest wall, the 4th wall, will be 150 feet tall, and the rest of them will be 50 feet taller than the previous wall, making the innermost wall 300 feet tall. Instead of 20 towers, there will be only 12 towers. 4 towers on the northern side and southern side will each be 400 feet tall, and the 4 towers in the middle will be 450 feet tall. All the towers will be connected to each other in the same way as that of Winterfell, bridges 300 feet above the ground. Okay, all this looks good. But how will we the manpower to work at so many places at the same time? We buy slaves. Obviously we will free them as soon as they board a northern ship. But we will have to buy slaves from Essos to bolster our small folk. I can live with that. Now as for the Ryswells and Dustins, we help them by buying horses from Yeti. We will buy hundreds studs and mares. We will give the studs to the Ryswells to breed them with their mares, and the opposite for the Dustins. The resultant horses from these crossbreeds would require less food as per the tray of the current northern horses, but would be far more stronger. They can sell these horses for coin. I have to say it is a very good plan, Ned. Thank you, father. Now to the last thing. We have the resources, but it will be all for naught if we can't protect these resources of ours. For that purpose I intend to create 3 military institutions. The Winter Wolves and the Weirwood Warriors, both of which will be land-based military, and the Sea Wolves to protect our shores from Ironborn scum on the western shore and the Essosi pirates on our eastern shore. The Winter Wolves would number around 350,000 soldiers, including 80,000 cavalry and the rest infantry, divided into swordsmen, archers, spearmen, axemen and pikesmen. The Wood Warriors will be the elite fighting force, numbered around 20,000. They will be trained in all weapons and they will be predominantly a cavalry force. Their task would be to protect Winterfell and the keep north of Last Hearth. The Sea Wolves would man our shores on various galleys, war galleys, dromons, and also protect various merchant vessels from pirates and raiders. Their numbers would be anywhere between 100,000 to 150,000. That's a lot of soldiers, commented Lord Stark. The North's population would increase by at least 10 times in the next 20 years. So this amount of soldiers will be necessary to ensure their protection. During war times, these soldiers would ensure that the production of the North doesn't decrease. All 3 institutions would be solely sworn to Winterfell. Other lords may train their own man-at-arms and household guards to ensure the protection of their keeps and castles. But these men will be trained to patrol and protect the cities, towns and villages. For this, father, you will need to buy some Unsullied, immediately. 1,000 which have completed their training and are cut, and another 10,000 which are yet to complete their training and are uncut. They will be required immediately after the 2 keeps are finished protecting our mines. The trained Unsullied will then train our Winter Wolves and Weirwood Warriors. They will of course be freed after they are bought. These words left a terrible taste in Ned's mouth. And how will do that, son? That many Unsullied won't come cheap, and the coffers of Winterfell will already be strained. You will need to take a loan from the Iron Bank. Okay, son. As soon as the construction work starts, I will go to Essos and buy the Unsullied from Astapa. Thank you, father, for showing such confidence in me. Ned smiled and said, touched at how much confidence his father was showing in him. 4 days later, Lord Ricard Stark left for the north with a plan that would change the north forever. Chapter 2, Changes. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. 9 years later. 271 AC. Winterfell. It had been 9 years since that fateful meeting with his father, and Ned had achieved everything that he had claimed to his father. The North was a powerhouse which the South could never even compete with. The mines were producing enough gold to match the gold in the royal treasury every year. The Northern Golden Fang and the Southern Golden Fang, or more commonly called as the Golden Fangs, were protected by the Unsullied, now a part of the Winter Wolves. The raids by the wildlings, Ironborn and pirates had completely stopped. The mountain city called as the Avalon was producing enough northern steel and other products to meet the requirement of the North. The reconstruction of Moat Cailin and Winterfell had completed 2 moons prior, 6 moons before schedule. All the newly constructed keeps, castles and cities were doing well. Winterfell now was a sight to behold. The 5 towers were looked so magnificent from a distance that even Harrenhal paled in comparison to it. The bridges were made up of clear glass and was strong and thick enough that 100 people could stand on it. Winterfell was made up of grey stones found in Skagos, or commonly called as Skagstones. The Great Hall of Winterfell was also expanded, and now more than 1,000 people could be seated there. The Maestas Tower had also been enhanced. Winterfell's library could now boast of more books than that present in the citadel. Winterfell could now also boast of several glass gardens which covered a total area of 7 acres. Moat Cailin was made up of black skagstones, but its bridges were made of stone instead of glass. It was now even more intimidating than before. And the best part was that the South had no clue about all of the changes made in the North, courtesy of the new Northern Master of Whispers. Or better said, as Mistress of Whispers. Lyda was a lies and pleasure slave who used to work in the best brothel of lies. The only thing more beautiful than her was her cunning mind. She used to spy for her master by sleeping with rich and influential people and absorb all the information given to her, in order to impress her. Later she used to retell all this information to her master. She was freed by Lord Ricard when he was traveling back to the north after his stop at Astapa to buy the Unsullied. She had approached Lord Ricard and asked for his assistance. She wanted to be free from her master, and Lord Ricard had complied. She was bought from her master for 400 gold dragons, a very steep price, but was worth every single dragon because she had a special talent. If any raven heard her whistle, the bird would come to her. He had then used her special talent to create whistles which made the same noise as that of her whistle. Using this talent of hers, she had either turned or killed the few spies of southern lords which were in the north. Even Maester Wallace hadn't survived her purging. He had been thrown from the top of the broken tower after it was found that he was a spy for House Tyrell. He was after all a flower. Though the new Maester, Maester Lewin, was also from the south, Riverlands to be exact, his loyalties were first to Winterfell, then to the Maesters. He is a kind man and nothing like what Wallace had been like. The Bravasi had been so happy after hearing the news that the Starks were buying slaves and freeing them that the Sea Lord of Braavos had himself come to Winterfell and had struck a deal with the Starks. Now all the wood imported by Braavos came from the north only. The Bravasi had offered the north to build the northern shipwrights to the Bravosai standards, which the Starks had happily accepted. The north would also get specialized interest rates if they took out another loan from the Iron Bank in the future. The current loan had been repaid by the Sea Lord. He had also left his first sword Syrio Forel to train the Stark children. So moved was Lord Ricard by this gesture of friendship by Braavos that he had given them permission to buy northern steel from Avalon at a special rate. They would pay 1/4 of the amount of gold for northern steel than any other non-northern buyer. Braavos had ordered for full plate armors and swords for 2,600 men. Braavos would be the only nation /city outside of the north which would have northern steel. The Bravasi also were the only people to get northern horses. Their only demand was that Braavos does not sell the northern steel and horses and use it for their own use only. The northern lords, copying the Starks, had started to buy slaves and free them to bolster their number of small folk. The yaks, rice and sugarcane plantations and the crossbreed horses were all doing well. The winter that came 4 years prior was now at an end. There was no shortage of food or warm clothes anywhere in the north. They still had to buy some amount of food, but that was due to the short amount of time they had to introduce the crops and yaks. But they had done remarkably well, and during the next winter they won't even need to buy any food at all. The population of the north had already grown to almost 5 million people and was increasing every day. A huge library and school had been built at every major town and city of the north so that the small folk, especially the children, could be taught how to read and write. Specific classes were organized for various professions, like if you were a farmer you would be taught agriculture and livestock management, or if you were a soldier you would be taught warcraft and historical battles, history. Scholars were the ones who taught these subjects. Scholars were people who had prior knowledge and understanding of these subjects. They had been trained by the maesters in the northern castles, and now the scholars used to train their own apprentices. It had been difficult to find and lure people to these schools at first, but when they graduated and started their trade, the difference between a skilled person and an unskilled person became obvious. Today, all children between the ages of 5 to 1 and 10 used to go to the general school and then went to specific schools to further their knowledge in their chosen trade. Ned had also started a register to ensure that they knew how many people were living in the north, what their trades were, and also the population density of the northern regions. Every newborn child had to be registered at these centers, be it trueborn or baseborn. Reports were sent to every lord about the number of births, deaths and migration of people by chosen representatives in every village, town and city. The lords then sent this data to Winterfell every 3 moons. It helped keep better knowledge of the people and helped in food distribution during winter. The different business started by the lords were doing well and Winterfell's coffers were bursting. The coffers of Winterfell now contained more than 3 million gold dragons and would easily be doubled in the next 2 to 3 years. After all the construction and reconstruction was completed, they had started a new project. As soon as winter had ended, the reconstruction of roads began. These roads would be made of bricks and clay to maintain even surface. The first road to be reconstructed would be the King's Road all the way from Moat Cailin to Castle Black via Winterfell. After that, the next would be the roads connecting Winterfell to all the other major castles and cities of the north. The major castles will then connect to their major towns, and so on till every village and hamlet would be connected. This huge task would take approximately 10 years to complete, but the King's Road and the roads connecting Winterfell would be completed in the next 3 years. These new roads would ensure that no part of the north is unreachable during winters. But all had not been well in the north. There had been a lot of reports that Lords Bolton and Ryswell were sending their men north of the wall to capture wildlings and enslave them for more profit. When his father had confronted Lord Bolton and Ryswell about this, they rose up in rebellion, greedy with the riches North had to offer to them. Lord Dustin, whose daughter was betrothed to Lord Roose Bolton, had also risen up with them in rebellion, 2 years prior to the start of winter. It was the first time the Winter Wolves and Weirwood warriors had faced real combat. They had trounced and beaten the rebels at every battle and skirmish. Houses Bolton and Dustin had been put to sword and the wildlings that had been enslaved had been freed. The 1,000 or so wildlings had chosen to settle on the lands south of the wall, where food and work was plenty. Lord Ryswell had also been executed, and instead of him Mark Ryswell became the new lord. It had been Mark who had initially told them about the transgression and atrocities committed by his father. For this loyalty he had been made the Lord of the Rills. Seeing the plight of the wildlings, or the free folk as they liked to be called, Ned had first convinced the northern lords that should they bend the knee and abide by the laws of the realm, the wildlings should be allowed to settle in these lands. After a lot of grumbling and muttering, it had been decided to send an envoy to north of the wall and ask the free folk to come south of the wall. They would be settled in the lands of the Boltons and Ryswells, and one of the wilderling chieftains would be given the lordship of Dreadfort. Ned himself had led the excursion north of the wall, much to the ire of his parents. 100 men from Winterfell had joined him. The meetings were tough at first. Centuries of mistrust and raiding had been tough to overcome. But they had been able to overcome it, eventually. After a lot of talks, some of the clans had been persuaded to come south of the wall with them. The free folk had to relinquish their practice of stealing. The Thans had refused outright, so cannibalism was not a problem. The free folk women could still fight the men they were to marry, but it was more organized and there had to be at least 10 people there to witness the fight. If the man lost, it was the choice of the woman if she wanted to go through with the marriage or not. More than 40,000 free folk had come to live in the Stark lands at the time. The meeting with the giant clans was relatively easy, and as they were peaceful people they easily integrated with him. 11 of the 13 clans of giants had agreed to come south with them. Almost 400 giants and more than 1,000 mammoths called the northernmost kingdom their home. The free folk and the giants had, as decided, been given the Dread Fort, renamed Snowfort or the Fort of Free Falls, and had the same arrangement as the mountain clans. There was a council of representatives of each clan of the Free Folk and Giants. The Free Folk had taken up the work of brewing whiskey. They were surprisingly very good at it. The Giants on the other hand had taken up construction work, though they were still a part of Snowfort Banners. The induction of Giants and Free Folk in the northern masses had far-reaching consequences. The Old Tongue had once again been taken up by the people of the north. The Free Folk had sent people fluent in the Old Tongue to all the castles of the north so that the lords and ladies of the north could converse with some of the Free Folk people and the Giants who still spoke only the Old Tongue. A lot of cultures and rituals which were practiced earlier but had been lost over time had been restarted. The Greenmen of the Neck had exchanged knowledge with the Free Folk people on how to tend to the weirwoods better. New weirwood trees had been planted all over the north so that the small folk could better pray to the old gods. All executions were now done in front of the weirwood trees. Weirwood saplings had also been planted solely for the use of its wood. There were plantations in the north where the trees were grown so that they could harvest its branches to make bows and weapon handles with the permission from the Greenmen and the Free Folk scholars. It had been observed that the weirwood's wood was ideal for making bows and guards of swords, as they were very agile but strong. A weirwood longbow could send an arrow double the distance than a longbow made of any other wood. The Free Folk had also told him that the older the tree was, the better the bow would be. He had taken 2 branches from the weirwood tree beyond the wall, where the Night's Watch swore their vows, with the permission from the Free Folk. That tree was the oldest weirwood tree in West Eos, older than the one in Winterfell. The introduction of wargs in the north had been met with skepticism and mistrust until the Crannog men had come forth and declared that they had wargs in their ranks too. The Free Folk wargs and the Crannog men would then train together, and now they were the best spies the Starks had in their service. It had been decided that wargs would never be used for any malicious activity in the north, and the ones caught doing so would be executed under the laws. It had been tough going for some time. There had been a lot of disputes between the Free Folk chieftains and the lords of the north and between various clans of the Free Folk itself, but his father with his iron fist and swift justice had been able to smooth everything over, and now the Free Folk were an integral part of the northern kingdom. The Giants and Mammoths had helped them in their construction work. A giant could do a work of 100 men alone. The Mammoths could carry load of more than 50 yaks. The Giants and Mammoths were the one who had made the construction of the Fever Canal joining Moat Cailin and White Harbour possible. They had completed the work in 1 year, and now as the winter had ended they would start the construction of a new canal connecting the Seawolf Point to the White Knife near Winterfell. This would mean easier access to the eastern and western fleets. This canal would take almost 4 to 5 years to complete, but once completed it would bring in huge profits for the north and Winterfell itself. With the onset of winter, even more Free Folk and one more clan of the Giants had come down south of the wall to ask for shelter and food. They had bent the knee and had joined their comrades at Snowfort. The north today housed around 75,000 Free Folk, 550 Giants and more than 1,200 Mammoths. Magdaoven was the first giant to be born south of the wall in recorded history. The biggest surprise came for the Stark family when 17 direwolves came south with Ned. Each member of the Stark family now had a direwolf companion. His father had named his direwolf Fury, he, Lyanna and Benjen had named their pups Winter, Elina and Theon respectively. Brandon was in the Vale and had not been able to name his direwolf. Each of the wolves were an ever-present shadow of their companions and had their personalities very similar to their companion. The talks with the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch had gone well. He had relinquished the new gift back to the Starks in exchange for more men, supplies and northern steel. All was going well for House Stark. Ned was now 7 and 10 a man grown, Brandon was 3 and 10 and was doing well in the Eyrie. He was fast friends with Robert Baratheon, the Lord of Stormlands, and had a good relationship with Lord Jon Arryn. His letters were always filled with stories of all the fun he was having there. Lyanna was 1 and 10 years old and was a Spitfire. The wolf's blood was strong in both Brandon and Lyanna. She preferred to learn the sword rather than learn to sew. Father had tried to stop her, but her rebel nature and a word from mother had his father accepting her rebelliousness. The last of the wolf pups, as his mother fondly liked to call them, was Benjen. The youngest was still 8 days old. He was a quiet child. Always did as the elders told him to do. He could be found either by a hearth reading a book or out in the yard practicing his archery or swordplay. Lord Stark has asked you to join him in his solar, my lord. A servant broke him from his thoughts. Nodding his head he the courtyard and made his way to the Lord's tower. Winter was out hunting with the rest of his siblings, accompanying Lionel who had gone for a ride. On entering the lift he asked the servant called a liftman to take him to the Lord's solar. He knocked on the door and entered after being acknowledged. Inside he found his father, mother, Mayor Stillowin and Lyda all waiting for him. "You wanted to speak to me, my son?" "Yes father, but if you are busy we can always talk later." "No, it is all right son. Speak what you had in mind." "We, that is your mother and I, also had something to discuss with you," Lord Stark replied. "All right father. I have been thinking, why have we not got any reactions from the south about our newfound wealth? We have been paying increased taxes for many years now. There have been no letters from the king or his hand asking us about the increased taxes that we are sending." "What do you think is the reason?" asked Mayor Stillowin. "I think either the king, the hand and the master of coin are all very incompetent, which knowing about Lord Tywine is not true, or there is foul play, which is more likely." "You think someone is stealing the taxes that we are sending to the crown?" his mother asked. "Yes mother." "Lyda, do you know anything about this?" his father asked her. "Yes my lord. I know that Steffon Lannister, the squire of Lord Tywine, and Leon Lannister are collaborating and pocketing the difference in taxes ever since we started to pay the increased taxes. Leon is the head collector of taxes of Lannisport," Lyda said. "By the old gods! They have stolen millions of dragons from the crown," his mother exclaimed. "Why haven't you said anything about it earlier?" asked Ned. "I thought about it only a few moons prior and started to dig up on it. I found out about the two people 3 days earlier and came to report it to you today. That is the reason why I had come here today, my lord. It is a golden opportunity to besmirch the Lannister name father. We should send a raven to the king regarding this and ruin the Lannister name. The whole realm will laugh at the Lannisters. The richest house of the realm is no better than common thieves," Ned said. "Do you really want to antagonize Lord Tywine, my lord?" asked Mayor Stillowin. "Mayor Stillowin, Lord Tywine relies on his wealth and his armies to intimidate the rest of the realm. We are at least if not more rich than the Westerlands, and our armies are well prepared. The Winter Wolves number at approximately 200,000 and the Weirwood Warriors number at 15,000. These numbers of Weirwood Warriors are those who have completed their entire training. The rest of the Weirwood Warriors will complete their training in the next 6 to 8 moons. Our navy, thanks to the Bravasi, are at full capacity. We have more than 300 galleys, 400 dromons and equal number of war galleys. Our vessels are far superior than the best of the south has to offer. We have more number of ships than the rest of Westeros combined. Lord Tywine does not scare me, Mayor Stillowin. We will do as you say, son." On seeing that his wife was about to protest, Lord Stark continued. "Our son is correct, my lady. We do not need to fear the Lannisters. Especially not now that the relations between Casterly Rock and the Red Keep are beginning to strain." On receiving a reluctant nod from his wife, Lord Stark ordered Mayor Stillowin, "Please compose a raven to the king on this matter after this meeting, and after getting my approval send it." On receiving a nod of acknowledgement from Mayor Stillowin, he continued now to the matter for which this meeting was convened. "Son, you are sin and 10 nearly a man grown. I think it is time for you to find a bride. Before you say anything, I had ordered Lyda to search the whole realm for a suitable bride for you, and we think that we may have found her." Ned found that he could not speak. Suddenly his throat had gone dry. "Marriage," he finally managed to squeak out. "Yes son, marriage. You know, when a man and a woman kneel in front of a heart tree and say their vows," his mother said with laughter in her voice. "I know what a marriage is mother, but surely I am too young." "Well, the girl who we have in mind is 2 years your junior, so you will not be marrying her before she comes of age. You still have 2 years for that, but you both would be betrothed. We had to search a lot to find you the perfect girl to marry. She had to be beautiful, intelligent, strong-willed for the northern lords to accept her if she is from the south, and also her house should have some political power. We finally found her after a year of searching," his father explained. "Who is she father? To whom am I being betrothed to?" "Lady Ashura of House Dane. She would become the next Lady of Winterfell," his father told him. "She is a very beautiful lady, my lord. She is intelligent. She was the one to propose a plan through which Housdane was able to keep 90% of their previous income after the Northern wine was introduced. Housdane is doing the best of all houses of Dawn, including the Martells, Lyda explained. And how did she manage that? Ned asked. She simply stopped the trade of wine. Once she found that the Dawnish Red is no match against the Northern wine, she stopped producing it. She then tried to find a new source of income. For a couple of years they were barely surviving, but then they made a breakthrough. The mountains of Dawn are very rich in iron, and the Danes have a majority of mountains on their lands. They have become to the Dawnish what the mountain clans are for us. She is strong-willed, and the Danes have been known to produce excellent swordsmen and serve the King's Guard from time to time. Lady Ashura is fostering in Sunspear under the tutelage of Princess Dirya Martell, so she would know how a household of a great house is run. Lyda explained. Ned was thinking about what Lyda had said. Father, I think this proposal has merit. If the proposal goes through and the contract is signed, we could give them coal for their forges. Their steel would become better than any other steels produced in the south. They could become very rich from it. We are producing more coal than we need, as it is. And why would we do that, son? We will trade coal and sand. They get our coal and we get sand. We can even send some men to train their blacksmiths better, Ned said. Sand. Why do we need sand? His mother asked. But his father was silent, thinking about things. And which of the houses do you plan to give the secret to, son? His father asked. None, father. Winterfell right now has no major trade. Whatever trade we get is because we are the richest of the houses of North, but we do not produce anything. We will take up the production to create more job opportunities for our small folk. The Northern Lords would not complain, as we are the last ones to take up a specific trade. We buy coal from the mountain clans and give it to the Dawnish for their sand, which they have in plenty. And what would be this city producing? His mother asked. Glass, mother. Ned said. But the secret to producing glass is known only to Myr, and they would never part with it. Maester Lewin said. No, Maester, you are wrong. The glass used for making the new glass gardens in Winterfell were produced only a few miles from here in the kilns that are producing bricks for the roads of the north. Glass is nothing but overheated sand. That is why we will buy sand from Dawn. The sand used in making the bridges and glass gardens were brought from Braavos, but without a constant supply of sand it was not worth it. But now we can look into this plan. Ned explained. It is a good plan, son, but won't it be better if we plan a new city and give it to Benjen for him to rule? His father asked. No, father, I have other plans for Benjen. Benjen will be given the old seat of Dustins. After their rebellion and extermination of House Dustin, their lands and castles remain unclaimed. We will give Barrowtown to either Benjen or Brandon. All right then. I will give the order for the reconstruction of Barrow Hall for Benjen or Brandon. Thank you, father. We also wanted to discuss something about the future, son. That is your mother and I have decided that just before you marry you will go to King's Landing and swear your oaths as the new Warden of the North. We will retire and leave the day-to-day running of the North to you. But why? Asked a stunned Ned. Because you will be a better Lord of Winterfell. But. No, Ned, we have decided it and our decision is final. We may even retire to the new city that we are planning to make. If you say so, father. Ned accepted his father's and mother's wishes. Ashura. Sunspear. 4 moons later. From the north to Dawn, everyone was talking about the same thing, the humiliation of House Lannister. Steffon and Leon Lannister were stealing from the crown like petty criminals. For this treason both of them had been beheaded in public. The lords from the north to Dawn were all laughing at the Lannisters. Tywin Lannister could do nothing but stew in silence as people laughed at the Lannister name. At the same time as the Lannisters were being humiliated, her lord father and her foster mother Princess Dirya Nymaris Martell had received a raven from Lord Rickard Stark about a betrothal between her and his eldest son Lord Eddard. The North was shrouded in mystery. How was the North paying such a huge tax? No one knew. There was no information coming out of the North. None in the South knew about the recent good fortune of the Starks. So for this reason Princess Dirya had first wanted to go to the north with her father to find out about the northernmost kingdom of the realm. But it had been shot down by the Starks. They had stated that with the ill health of both her father and that of her foster mother, traveling such distances was not wise. How they even knew about the ill health of Princess Dirya was anybody's guess. No one except for her, Doran, Oberyn, Elia and the Maester knew about this. This tidbit of information had raised more questions than answering them. So now here she was waiting for her foster mother and Lord Father to arrive in her room after the Lord meeting with Lord Stark. Lord Stark had arrived in Sunspear earlier this morning with a fleet of 7 war galleys, each bigger than any other ship one had ever seen, and his personal ship, Winter's Fury, or so she had been told. The North having a fleet in itself was surprising, but to travel with such a large amount of ships meant that the Northern fleet was very strong. Winter's Fury, the personal ship for the Lord of Winterfell, was a beauty. The huge ship was made of blackwood and could boast of 400 oars. She had been told by the servants who had boarded the ship that the interior was made completely of light cream-colored wood. It was then that her father and foster mother arrived. "Father, Princess Dirya," she said and curtsied. "How many times have I told you to call me mother?" Ashura Princess Dirya admonished lightly. "How was the meeting with Lord Stark, mother?" "It went well. We have reached an agreement on all the important matters. You will be married to Lord Eddard 2 years from now once you reach 6 and 10. They have agreed to the dowry we are giving them and we have agreed on the bride price. Future trade would be discussed once you both are married," Princess Dirya said. "And what did you find about the North?" "Next to nothing," her father grumbled. "The only thing that we could find out was that just before you will marry, Lord Rickard would abdicate his position and Lord Eddard would become the new Lord of Winterfell. You will become the Lady of Winterfell when you marry. You both can communicate with each other through ravens, but you will not meet him until we reach Winterfell." Ashura nodded her head in acceptance. "That means whatever is going on in the North, Eddard was in the center of it. That is the only reason why Lord Rickard would abdicate his position and retire," Ashura said. "Yes, but Eddard would only be 9 or 10 days old if we go with the time when the North started sending the extra taxes. He would be too young to make any changes," Dirya said. "That does not make any sense," her father exclaimed in annoyance. "Nothing with the North makes any sense, father. We will have to wait till we reach the North to see the changes and decide what were the reasons behind these changes," she said. "True, but none of our spies or any spy of the South told us about it," Princess Dirya said. "That is because the North has a very good and very clever spy master whose spy ring is better than any other spy rings in Westeros," Ashura said. "What makes you say that, daughter?" her father asked. "That is because the Starks knew about my ailing health. Your ailing health is known to all, Lord Leonard, but nobody except my children and the Maester knew about my ailing health. This means that the Northerners know about our every move, and by the same explanation we can assume every move of all the Southern houses," Princess Dirya replied instead. Ashura's heart fluttered a bit when Princess Dirya included her in her children. After her mother's death in childbed when she was small, there had always been an empty space in her heart. Princess Dirya had filled that place when she started her fostering here in Sunspear. She had always treated Ashura as one of her own children. Well, that could be true, and as nobody would have suspected the Starks, they could easily have placed any number of spies everywhere. "We need to find them and dispatch them quickly," her father said. "It would be futile, father. We don't know their numbers, where they are and what mode of communication they are using. And with our spies in the North dead or turned, we will never be able to find them. What Ashura speaks is true. We cannot destroy their spy network." "It would be futile," Princess Dirya said. "When would the contract be signed, mother?" "Tomorrow, Ashura. And the day after Lord Stark would leave for his journey back north." "Very well then, I would better send a letter with him for Lord Eddard." "Yes, you do that. We will leave you alone for you to write your letter," Princess Dirya said. 2 years later. 272 AC. "Welcome back, mother. How was your trip to King's Landing?" Ashura asked as she came into her mother's solar. "It was good, Ashura. Lord Eddard swore his vows as the new Warden of the North. The whole realm was there to see the new Stark Lord," her mother replied. Generally, these events were not as large as this, but due to the interest the lords and ladies of the South had in the Starks, it became a very big event. "Did you see my betrothed, mother?" Yes, I saw him. He is nicely built and I am sure he has a big cock and would rock your world in bed." Now concentrate, woman, and quit blushing like a maid. But I am a maid, mother. Not due to lack of trying, her mother grumbled good-naturedly. Now listen carefully to what I have to say. Yes, mother. I found out that Eddard had gone to the Citadel, when he was just 7 years old, and forged a lot of links before returning to the north after just 2.5 years. As at that time the War of Nine Kings was ending, nobody heard anything about it. So our initial conclusion that Lord Eddard was behind the changes was indeed correct. But how is it possible? How come a child of just 10 name days was able to change a millennia-old nation? We will soon find out. We will depart for the north in 3 days. Most of the Dornish lords will accompany us. If the winds are kind, we will reach Winterfell in a moon and half. Well then, I better start packing. Notes. So there were a lot of changes in the north. If you have any confusion, or if you want, I could add a bulletin chapter highlighting the changes made in the north as the next chapter. Please comment on how you liked this chapter and story so far. Kudos and comments are always appreciated. Chapter 3, The Journey North. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Ashura. Near White Harbor. 272 AC. They were right now nearing White Harbor and would travel further up the White Knife up till Longtown, whatever that was. She was currently standing on the deck of Winter's Lady, her soon-to-be personal ship. The amount of ships that the Starks had at their disposal was as astounding as it was worrying. 2 days before their departure, 40 northern ships docked at the port of Sunspear. At first, the various Lords of Dorne were worried they may be under attack, but when the ships docked peacefully, their worry rescinded. When Sir Wylis Marndaly, who was leading the ships, found out, he just laughed and said, "If you thought this was an attack, then you would piss your pants off if you faced the actual might of the wolves," and laughed again. If this was not the whole fleet of the North, or at least the majority of them, then what were the actual number of warships the North owned? Her mother had been both terrified of the North and was thankful that they were entering an alliance of marriage with them. She was terrified because the Reach that had the most naval presence in entire Westeros had approximately 80 warships. Even the royal fleet had only 60 ships. The Winter's Lady was a beautiful ship. It had a total of 350 oars, just 50 less than the flagship of the North. Made of the same wood as Winter's Fury, and apparently the rest of the Northern fleet, the interior of the ship was made up of light cream color. The bedsheets and curtains were all made of silk and violet colored. She was told that the interior was done particularly for her tastes, and anything that she didn't like would be replaced. The ship had various portraits of various famous lords and ladies of both House Stark and Dane. There were also paintings depicting famous and infamous moments in the history of both the houses. The assortment of delicacies and wine had left her mouth watering. Her personal cook on this ship had asked her in detail how she liked her meals, and it was made exactly like she preferred. All the Danes and the Martells were staying on this ship. The ship even had its own small library. Everybody was enjoying their time on the ship. The wealth of the North was enormous, that was for sure. But the weather was terrible for someone who was born and raised in Dorne. It was too bloody cold for her. How she would manage to live her life in this cold she didn't know. Sir Wylis had said that it was the season of summer snow, that is why it was cold right now. Summer snow. It shouldn't snow during summer, should it? If it was this cold during summer, she hated to think how cold it actually would be during winters. She was clad in woolen clothes from top to bottom. "My lady, we will reach White Harbor within the hour. My lord father requests that we stay the night at White Harbor and then continue our journey further up north," Sir Wylis said, breaking her chain of thoughts. "Of course, Sir Wylis. We would be delighted to have the hospitality of White Harbor," she replied curtly. "We will be docking at the port in soon, my lady. I will tell the others in the wedding party about this," Sir Wylis said. "Of course, sir." She went to her room to change her dress into something befitting the next Lady of Winterfell. Soon after she was ready, her mother and Oberyn entered her room. "It's too bloody cold here," Oberyn complained /whined. "It's good that I won't be living the rest of my life here, or I would surely die of cold within a moon." "You never know, Oberyn. If I find a suitable bride and her father is agreeable, you could settle in the north with your own holdfast," Dirya said seriously. Oberyn gasped. "You wouldn't, mother," he said, horrified of the thought. "And why wouldn't I do that?" because it's so cold up here. And you have woolen clothes, do you not? But. She couldn't take it any longer and laughed at Oberyn's misery, her mother soon joining her. You both are too cruel, you know that, he said and huffed. Ashura just laughed more. She picked up a brush to sort her hair. Here, let me, Dirya said as she took the brush from her hands and started brushing her hair. I want you on your best behavior, Ashura. The Northerners are proud men. They will judge you on your strength. It would take a long time for you to make them accept you as the new Lady Stark, and even more time to respect you. You have to strong, you understand? Yes, mother, I know, and I am prepared for it. You could just elope with me, you know, there is still time, Oberyn japed. She just scoffed at him. And you, Oberyn, you will behave properly. I do not want a war with the North because you couldn't keep your cock out of some Northern lord's daughter or wife. And keep your tongue under control too. Remember this, North not Dawn, her mother threatened. Yes, mother, Oberyn replied seriously. My lady, a servant said, knocking on the door. Come in, she called out. My lady, we have reached White Harbor and will soon enter the port, he said. I will come to the deck soon. Please alert the others, she said. Of course, my lady, your graces. From the deck of the Winter's Lady she could see the port of White Harbor. There were a lot of ships there, but all of them were trading vessels by the look of it. She then noticed that the lead ship and all the escort ships broke their formation and turned left towards Wolf's Den. There she saw another port there. At least 40 or more ships were docked there. They were all warships of different kinds. She also saw what appeared to be a reconstructed Wolf's Den flying the banner of a blue and grey dire wolf on a field of white. Sir Willis, what house is that? I cannot recognize the banner, she asked Sir Willis. That is the banner of the Sea Wolves. They are the Northern Navy. All of them are sworn to Winterfell and House Stark. House Marndaelis warships also dock there, in a separate section. That is a military dock. No civilians are allowed to enter it. You mean to say that the ships which came to take us are not Marndaeli ships? Of course not, my lady. All ships that came to escort you were Stark ships, and all men here are sworn to House Stark. We have our own separate fleet. Though not as large as the Stark fleet, our ships were also made by the same shipwrights as the Starks, Sir Willis replied. Well, this was news to her. She assumed that these were Marndaeli ships as Sir Willis was there to escort them. But apparently not. Just how large was the Northern fleet and the Stark fleet? Soon the ship docked at White Harbor and Lord Wyman Marndaeli himself was there to welcome her in the north. She was received with all pomp and show. White Harbor was huge. There were at least 200,000 to 250,000 people living here. It was a beautiful city, a perfect blend of northern culture and southern gods. A feast was thrown in her honor, which is where she found herself now, sitting between Lord Marndaeli and her mother. The feast was a boisterous affair. There were minstrels, murmurs, dancers and jugglers performing. There was a lot of food and drinks. After the feast ended, Lord Marndaeli asked her, Princess Dirya and her father, to join him in his solar. A servant showed them the way to Lord Marndaeli's solar. She knocked on the door. Come in was called out from inside. Princess Dirya, Lord Dane, Lady Ashura, I am sorry to call you all here, but it is important. Would you like a drink? Lord Marndaeli said. Yes please, she answered, for all of them. He took out 4 quaint glasses and a bottle of some brown-colored liquid. When he opened the bottle, strong smell of alcohol was coming out of it. He poured the liquid 3 fingers thick in all the glasses. Then he added 2 ice cubes in each of them and passed the glasses to all of them. Please be careful. It is very strong. She took a tentative sip and the liquid burned through her throat. She almost spit it out but kept it in, but the same could not be said about her mother or father. Warmth flowed throughout her body. Whatever it is very good and strong drink. What in the name of the old gods and new is that, her mother coughed out. It is a northern drink, your grace. It is called whiskey. It is very good to warm you up during a cold night. Thought you could use it, Lord Marndaeli stated, humor in his voice. Yes, it warmed me up, she said. But be careful, my lady, it is strong. 10 times stronger than wine. Her mother and father took another sip, this time smaller, and managed to keep it in. Well, my lord, what was it that you wanted to talk to us about? I doubt it was about the drink, her mother said. We have had reports from sailors from Longtown that the White Knife is frozen in some stretches. We have stopped all the activity on the river until the ice has been salted. So we could travel to Winterfell by road, which would take us 10 days, or we could go to Moat Cailin and then to Winterfell. It would save us a day or two. So, traveling to Moat Cailin and then to Winterfell would be better, won't it, my lord? Also, how come it would take less time for us to travel to Moat Cailin? She asked. We will travel by ship, my lady. A canal was dug up to connect Moat Cailin to White Harbour. The canal would take us to Moat Cailin in half a day, and even if stay at Moat Cailin the night, we will reach Winterfell in 7 to 8 days. I recommend we leave for Moat tomorrow at dawn so that we can reach Moat by midday. We will catch up with Lord Brandon Stark and the rest of the Lords of the Neck. We can all then travel for Winterfell together, he replied. Very well then, my lord. We will do as you say. We leave for Moat Cailin at dawn tomorrow, she replied. Very well, my lady. I will send a raven to Winterfell telling them of our change in plans. Have a good night, my lady, my lord, your grace, Marndale replied. My lady, there was also another matter. 15 Weirwood warriors have arrived for your protection for your journey north. They will also be traveling with us and will be your personnel bodyguards. I do not know the reason why Lord Stark sent them, but he has written a letter to you which was with the captain of the warriors. Here is the letter, my lady. Thank you, my lord. Is there anything else? No, my lady. Then I bid you a good night, my lord. Have a good night, my lady. The next day. Near Moat Cailin. As they were nearing Moat Cailin, Ashura's mind was wandering. She had got to know the North a bit more yesterday. With the conversation she had with Lord Marndale and then with her betrothed's letter, she was able to piece together a lot of information. The Weirwood warriors were the elite of the northern soldiers. That much was written in the letter, but the North keeps a regular army and will not rely on levies during wartime, was what she was able to deduce. The number of soldiers was not available, but if the navy was any indication, the number of foot soldiers would also be high. There had also been a lot of economical changes too. That the North was the reason behind Dawn and Red Wines losing their wine market would be a calculated guess. But the million dragon question was, how were they able to achieve so much in so little time? All of her betrothed's letters and even Lord Marndale was very quiet about it. She had been able to get to know her betrothed quite well over the 2 years. He was kind and loyal man. She had once in her letter mentioned to him that she loved to ride, and he had sent her one of the best mares North had with the warriors he had sent to protect her. She is a beautiful species. White-colored, strong but good-natured. She had ridden her for some time before they had boarded the ship to Moat Cailin. She was right now in her cabin on the Winter's Lady nursing her head. The whiskey that Lord Marndale had given her was too strong, but it was worth it. Almost all the Dornish had a flask of whiskey with them to keep them warm during the journey, courtesy of Lord Marndale. It was then that there was a knock on her door. Come in, she called out. Oberyn came in and said, Good, you are ready. The captain said that we are nearing Moat Cailin. Give me a moment, I will be there. She took the latest letter of her betrothed and kept in box where she used to keep all the other letters. She then walked out and came up to the deck. What she saw on the deck took her breath away. When Lord Marndale had said that they would be going to Moat Cailin and a canal had been dug to connect it to the Bight, she thought that the reconstruction of Moat Cailin would be going on. But alas, that was not to be. The reconstruction was completed and in front of her stood a new Moat Cailin. This new Moat Cailin was as beautiful as it was deadly. Instead of the previous 20 towers, there were only 12 towers. These towers were at least as tall as the towers of Harrenhal. All the towers were armed with dozens of ballistas and scorpions and a very large tray bucket capable of breaking any ship in half. The towers were all connected to each other with what could only be called as bridges at least 250 feet above the ground. She could see scores of scorpions and hundreds of sentries all along the outer wall and battlements. The docks were busy with people loading and unloading the ships. I feel sorry for those who tried to attack the moat, Oberyn said from behind her, and she tended to agree with him. If the old Moat Cailin was half as deadly as this one, she felt sorry for those egoistical bastards who tried to take it. The new Moat Cailin could break any army's morale when they see it. This castle was unconquerable. Aye, it is a beauty, quipped Lord Mandaily. They soon docked at the docks and mounted their horses to go to the keep. The town that had been made on the northern side of the castle was a beehive of activity. She could see that most of them were either traders or blacksmiths and fletchers. Most likely to keep the soldiers posted here well supplied. When they exited the town she could see 3 more walls, each higher than the other. There was no cover between any walls, each of them 70 feet away from each other. This area would be an archer's paradise. With no cover to take the soldiers, if they were able to, the outermost wall would have no place to hide here. It would be a massacre. As she entered the courtyard, she saw some people standing there waiting to greet her. There were also a lot of men-at-arms and household guards there. That is Brandon Stark, younger brother of Lord Eddard Stark, her mother whispered quietly to her as she came out of her carriage. Lady Ashura, Princess Dirya, Lord Dane and the rest of our Dornish brothers, welcome to Moat Cailin, said Lord Brandon stepping forward. Thank you Lord Brandon for this warm welcome, she said. Come my lady, we may retire to the Great Hall to have our midday meal and then you could rest the day and we may continue our journey on the morrow, he said. Thank you my lord, and not be disrespectful, but it would be better if we continue our journey to Winterfell today, she replied respectfully. Eager to see your betrothed and get married, I see. No problem, my lady. It will be done as you say, he quipped cheekily. She had feeling that he and Oberyn would like each other's company quite well. She and the rest of her family followed Lord Brandon to the Great Hall. The Great Hall of Moat Cailin could seat at least 500 men in it. On the raised dais were seated what she guessed the rest of the Lords of the Neck. After the meal they met outside to continue their journey. Their party consisted of almost 1,000 men and women. Later that evening, they had made camp near an inn on the King's Road for the night. Due to the large size of their party, all the nobles were residing in the inn and the soldiers and servants had been provided with tents by Lord Brandon. The inn had been booked by Lord Brandon and the finest of foods and liquor had been provided to them. Come in, she called out as she heard a knock on her door. She saw her mother, father, Arthur, Artos, Oberyn and Elia come into her room. Arthur had arrived at Moat Cailin just after they had left to continue their journey and had caught up with them a few leagues out of Moat Cailin. Good evening mother, father, Arthur, Artos, Oberyn, Elia. What brings you all here this evening, she asked. Well, we are all here to understand and share knowledge about what all we have gathered about the North, her mother replied. Well, you are the one who has been to North before, so you tell us the differences between your 2 trips, her father said to Dirya. I did not know that you have been to the North before, mother, Elia said before her mother could answer. My father wanted the best man for me, so we traveled all over the realm to find the perfect match for me, she replied. As for the differences, I have been to both White Harbor and Moat Cailin before and both of them are very different than what I remember. Well, Moat Cailin has been reconstructed, but the main thing is that even White Harbor was renewed and expanded. The city is much bigger than what I remember. Wolf's Den has also been reconstructed and has been given to the Northern Navy, she quipped. I counted around 70 ships at Wolf's Den, including the 20 ships that had come to escort us, her father said. How were they able to pay for all this renovation, expansion, construction and reconstruction they have been doing? If they have expanded their trade, then where did they get their capital from? Oberyn asked. Well, the North has a lot of mountains. What if they found something of value in those mountains? Arthur said. What would the North have? This is basically a barren land, Artos, the ever foolish and cocky one, said. Technically Dorne is also a barren desert, but we produce spices and fruits for the rest of the realm. They may have also found some new food types and animals suited for the cold climate, Elia quipped. Well, that is true. They have a long coast from where they could fish and the lands may be fertile, especially during the summer. If they solved their food problem they could have saved a lot of coin for their other enterprises, she said. That's true, her father said. After that they talked about the politics of the 7 kingdoms. Arthur told them about Lord Tywine resigning as the Hand of the King. The relations between the Rock and the Crown had not been good since the news about Lannisters stealing from the Crown had been discovered, especially because the King ridiculed Lord Tywine at court every chance he got. Lord Tywine had endured this ridicule of the King. But when the King had shot down Lord Tywine's proposal for marriage between Prince Rhaegar and his daughter Cersei, Lord Tywine had been furious, especially when the King had insulted both him and his daughter. This tidbit of news had eluded them as they had been traveling. They had at lengths discussed the consequences and ramifications of this event at lengths. After the more ominous talks were over, they talked about their lives and what was going on in it. Arthur shared tales of his time as the King's Guard, Oberyn talked about his latest conquests, and Dirya berated Oberyn over his latest conquests. Ashura really loved these moments, especially now that she did not know when she would get the next chance to do so again. She really enjoyed these moments together. 8 days later. Near Winterfell. The north was not the same deserted place the southerners thought it was. There were hamlets, villages and towns all along the King's Road. Even the northern roads were made up of bricks and clay instead of dirt and shit like in rest of the kingdoms. The roads were wide to ensure that there was no hold-ups. 8 carts could move side by side. There were signs made at every junction and divergence for travelers so that they don't get lost anywhere. The cultural and religious diversity was also mind-boggling for her. There were wood trees planted for people who follow the old gods, septs were there for followers of the Seven, and even small red temples were there for the followers of Arla. To see so many people of different cultures and religions living with each other peacefully and in harmony was not something she had expected. They were just 2 leagues away from Winterfell and her stomach was twisted all the way from north to Dawn. What if her future husband did not like her, or her husband's family hated her, or the northern lords did not approve of her? She was lost in these thoughts when her father and Arthur came up to her. "So, daughter, how are you feeling?" her father asked her. "Fine, father. Just a bit nervous," she replied. "You know, when I was going to marry your mother I was nervous as well. I did not know if we would get along or not. It frightened me at the thought of sharing the rest of my life with another person, but finally when we married we were both very happy. Marriage is all about communicating with each other and giving each other space when required. I know you like to know about each and everything, but you would need to give him space when required," her father said. "Yes, father, I know I come out as strong sometimes, but I will try to curb such tendencies in the future." "Well, sister, if your husband gives you problems, just remind him that you are the sister of the Sword of the Morning, the slayer of the Laughing Night," he said, puffing his chest out and preening. It brought a smile to her face. "I won't tell Ned that. And I won't come running to you every time I have a problem. I am a lady now," she said with a light chuckle. "No matter how old you are, or even if you are the Queen of the 7 Kingdoms, you will always be my baby sister. The one who came running to me every time you got a boo-boo, so that I could kiss it better. Yeah, those were good times," she said with a small smile on her face. "My lady, my lord, so we are nearing Winterfell. Prince Oberyn and Lord Brandon request your presence at the front of the retinue." Alaric, one of her guards, came up to her. She, her father and brother made it to the front of the retinue just as they were cresting a small hill. As she reached the top of the hill she saw Winterfell and Wintercity for the first time, and it took her breath away. Winterfell was huge area-wise and its grandeur was otherworldly. The 5 towers were even taller than those of Harrenhal. Like at Moat Cailin, the towers were interconnected with bridges, but instead of stone, the bridges were made up of glass. The walls were huge and the Great Hall was just as large as the one at Harrenhal. The number of glass houses in Winterfell was staggering. The grey castle with a white background gave it a very beautiful look. "Well, that is a beauty," Arthur said, or in his voice. "Well, it sure is," Lord Brandon said, pride evident in his voice. "It is the most beautiful and intimidating castle I have ever seen," her father said. "What about Moat Cailin?" Oberyn asked. "Moat Cailin was more deadly and intimidating and less beautiful." "Don't get me wrong, it was beautiful, but Winterfell is something else," her father replied. "Well, that is true. Lady Ashura, how do you like your new home?" Lord Brandon replied. "It is a castle I would love to call home. Its grandeur and beauty is otherworldly. I just hope the people living in it would also accept me," she said. "Do not worry, my lady. From what I have seen and heard about you, you would be just fine," he replied. "Thank you, my lord." "Let's finish our journey, my lord," she replied. "Eager to see my brother, I see," he teased good-naturedly. She just blushed slightly. As she neared Wintercity, she smelled the scent of snow, pine and ash, and she loved this place even more. She hated King's Landing for its smell of piss and shit. She found herself lucky that she did not have to live the rest of her life in a city that smelled of piss and shit. The people of the city were all out on the streets to get a look of their next lady, waving Stark flags. The sheer population of the city amazed her. She then saw something which she had heard about only in books and stories: giants. There were 4 giants standing with the masses looking at them with interest. Are my eyes deceiving me, or are there really giants there? Arthur asked. They really are giants, Brandon said. The North is now home to more than 500 giants or so, my brother tells me in his letters. The clan leaders must have come for the wedding, and some of them may have got curious and came to look what it was all about. As they reached the gates of the castle, they rearranged themselves and entered the courtyard. As she dismounted her horse, she saw the lords and ladies gathered there to greet her. She walked over to the gathered lords and ladies, and in the middle of the greeters stood a tall man with short beard and beautiful piercing grey eyes. Her future husband was a very handsome man. He looked directly at her and said, "Lady Stark, welcome to Winterfell." Notes. Hi, so the next chapter is here. To remove some confusion, I am writing the ages of the main characters. Current age, as of the end of this chapter: Ned, 19. Brandon, 15. Lyanna, 13. Benjen, 9. Ashera, 16. Elia, 16. Rhaegar, 19. Arthur, 21. So as you can imagine, the ages of the characters are different from that in canon. I will also try to add a map of the North in the next chapter, for future reference. Till next time. Chapter 4, Meetings and Conversations. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. Eddard. For the last week he had been a twisted mess. The transition of power from his father to him had been smooth. All the lords and ladies had arrived 3 days ago and had sworn their fealty to him. He had asked them to come to Winterfell now and not earlier, because he did want them to travel twice so close together, once for swearing fealty and then for his marriage. The thoughts of marriage made him nervous. What if his future wife did not like him? What if she could not adjust to life here in the North? What if the Northern lords did not approve of her? What if she hated him and his family? All kinds of thoughts were swimming through his mind. Work distracted him from his nervousness. He could not imagine how his father did all the work and maintained his sanity for the past 15 years. The work never seemed to end. My lord Sir Roderick knocked on the door of his father's solar. He was still uncomfortable to call it his solar. "Come in, Sir Roderick," he said. "My lord, scouts have spotted the Dornish retinue a few leagues away from Winterfell. I have sent people to escort them to Winterfell. Ask the rest of my family and the Northern lords to assemble in the courtyard to greet them." "Of course, my lord." He arrived at the courtyard half an hour later to see the rest of the family and lords assembled at the courtyard. He waited a few minutes at the center of the line when the first of the scouts they had sent arrived. He then saw his future wife for the first time and fell in love with her. Her long raven black hair, which came till the small of her back, her mocha-colored skin and her deep violet eyes were so entrancing that he needed a small nudge from his father to remind him where he was. "Lady Stark, welcome to Winterfell," he said. "Thank you, my lord, for this warm welcome." Her smooth voice sounded like a lullaby to him. "Lord Dane, Princess Dyria, the hospitality of Winterfell and North is yours," he said to them. "Thank you, my lord. May this marriage be a new start to the relationship between the North and Dorne," Princess Dyria replied with a slight curtsy. The party moved forward and all the Stark family and lords of the North were introduced. Each of the family members were charged with escorting the guests to their respective rooms. Slowly the courtyard cleared and he was left to escort his future wife to her room, in which she would be staying until the marriage took place. There had been some awkward silence between them at first, but she broke the silence first. "You have a very beautiful home, my lord," she said as they reached the lifts to the tower where the bridal party was staying. "Thank you, my lady. I hope your journey here was not too tiring and troublesome." "No, my lord. It was pleasant, my lord. I loved to see the castles and the lands which I would be a part of, my lord. Please, my lady, call me Ned. We are soon to be husband and wife after all." "Ashera then, Ned." "Thank you, Ashera. How do you like the North so far?" "It is a beautiful place, Ned." As they reached Ashera's room, he asked her, "If you would not mind, Ashera, I would love for us to meet in the Godswood tomorrow after breaking our fasts." I would like to get to know you better, Ashura. I would like that, Ned. So until tomorrow then. Have a good day, Ashura. You too, Ned. He could hear the giggling of her betrothed's handmaidens once the doors closed. He went back to his solar to prepare for the meeting that he would have the day after with Princess Dirya and Lord Dane. Today everyone would have their meals in their rooms and tomorrow there would be a feast in honor of the arrival of the Dornish. The day after the wedding would take place. That night as he sat with his family eating his dinner he could not stop thinking of his fiancée and what was she doing right now. It was like he was some lovesick puppy. He had been the source of ridicule and japes especially by his father and brother who teased him all during the dinner. As he went to sleep that night he could not stop thinking and then dreaming of the violet-eyed goddess that her fiancé was. Ashura. After she had been escorted to her room by her betrothed she thought about the beautiful castle she was soon going to call home. The castle was huge, long towers and high walls which were needed if the giants were a regular guest here. There were lifts to take them to the top of the towers. She just could not believe how beautiful it was. The bridges made of glass and stone was something she had never seen before. The castle itself was not as cold as it was outside. It felt warm and comfortable here. Soon a maid came and delivered a hot bath for her in the cleansing room which had a tub for bathing, sink to wash hands and a privy to relieve herself. She hated using bedpans, as that at Starfall, as it was demeaning to both her and the servants. Her handmaidens got to work as they cleaned her up. She could feel the weariness of the travel leave her bones as she soaked in the hot water. She and the rest of her family supped together that night. Conversation flowed easily as they had a lot of topics to discuss. Finally that night as she lay down on her soft bed covered in soft furs she thought about how her day had been and how the next day would pan out until sleep finally claimed her. The next day. She was awakened by her maids who lead her to the cleansing room. She did her morning rituals and then decided to have a bath before she broke her fast. As she was taking her bath a servant came in and told her that her mother had asked her to join them at the Great Hall so that they could break their fast together. Her handmaidens had taken out a beautiful violet-colored dress for her, today. She got dressed and joined the rest of her family at the bottom of the tower to go to the Great Hall. Did you have a good night's sleep, Ashura? Her mother asked. Yes, Princess Dirya, I slept well. And did you sleep well, Your Grace? She asked. She used her mother's formal title as they were in public right now. Yes, dear. I slept like a log, she replied. So, what are you planning on doing today, Your Grace? She asked. I was invited to join your soon-to-be mother-by-law for tea after breakfast and then Elia invited her and Lady Lyanna to join us at our knitting circle later in the day. You would join us there, would you not? She replied. Oh. Sorry Princess, I did not tell you last night but my betrothed has asked me to join him for a walk in the Godswood after breaking our fasts today, she said as they entered the Great Hall. The whole Stark, Dane and Martell family was to sit at the elevated dais which had a long table there. As she took her seat she saw that Lord Rickard and Lady Lyra were seated and having their breakfast. Good morning, Lord Stark, Lady Stark. I hope you had a pleasant night, she greeted her soon-to-be father and mother-by-law. She knew that they were no longer Lord and Lady Stark but it felt weird calling them by their given names. Good morning, dear, we had a pleasant night, thank you for asking. And please call us father and mother, after all we are to be family soon, she replied with a kind smile. She searched for Ned but she did not see him. In fact, none of the Stark children were present. If you are searching for your betrothed then I must disappoint you. Ned always has his breakfast in his solar. I swear that boy works twice as much as I used to work. He even sleeps there sometimes, Lord Rickard said to her. But do not worry, dear. Now that you are here we would see him more often, Lady Lyra said kindly. And where are the rest of your children, my lady? She asked her kindly. Well, Brandon likes to sleep in and would be waking up right about now. Lyanna is in the yard practicing her swordplay and archery and Benjen has already eaten and would be in the library or in the yard with Lyanna, she replied. Forgive me, my lady. I do not wish to intrude or be rude but you allow your daughter to practice sword and bow. Why, my lady? Arthur asked Lady Lyra. There is nothing to forgive, Sir Arthur. And to answer your question, yes, I allow my daughter to practice sword and bow, sir. That is because she is a northern lady, sir. And in the north we teach our daughters to fight as good as any man. My daughter is not some delicate flower that needs a man to protect herself. Here, in the north a woman is as good a fighter as any man. In fact, the Shield Maidens of Bear Island are some of the most fiercest warriors that North has. She was relieved that she could continue to practice her archery here in the north. Dawn, while being more flexible in most matters of sex, did not allow women and girls to practice any weapons. Only the Martells and to some extent the Danes and Huronwoods allowed the women folk to practice weapons. She also noted the slight hint of intrigue on Elia's face and decided to ask about it later. It was then that both Lyanna and Brandon entered the Great Hall. Both were flanked by the largest wolves she had ever seen, snarling and growling, baring their fangs as if they would eat all the people present in the Great Hall. Her voice was caught in her throat. Some of the Dornish lords and most laded fainted at the sight. She could hear Elia's shriek and Arthur's hand going to the pommel of his sword, but before anybody could move Lord Ricard's voice cut in. "Please, quiet everybody. The direwolves are harmless until and unless they feel threatened. Please stay calm. They will not hurt you." Brandon was laughing and Lyanna was giggling behind her hand, which showed that they had both planned it in order to frighten them. When they reached the table, Lady Lyra chided them in a steely voice. "After breaking your fast you both will go back to your respective rooms and wait for me there. Is that clear?" "Yes, Mother," both replied in unison. "Good, now apologize to everybody." "We are sorry, Your Grace, my lords and ladies. It was not our intention to scare all of you so badly," they both said in unison again. "Good. Now sit down, both of you." She had to stifle her laugh when she saw the beaten pup look on their faces. Especially when she saw the same look on the wolves' faces. It was as if the wolves could read the mind of their masters. Something told her that this was a regular occurrence in this household. After she had finished breaking her fast, her father said, "Daughter, take either Arthur with you to act as a chaperone for the walk." "Yes, Father," she replied and looked towards Arthur, who was getting up from his seat. "Lady Lyra, may I enquire where my betrothed may be?" she asked. "He would most probably in his solar. A servant will show you where that is." "And please, dear, I have asked you to call me Mother," she replied kindly. "Yes, thank you, Mother." "May you have a good day," she replied and curtsied. "You too, dear." After exchanging pleasantries with the rest of the people, she and Arthur left the table and followed a servant to the Lord's solar. After she and Arthur had made their way out of the Great Hall, Arthur asked her, "So sister, how do you like your new home and family so far?" "I love this place. The castle is beautiful, the people here are courteous and loyal. As for my new family, I feel that they are not much different than our family. They love each other dearly and I think they would like me as well." "And what about your betrothed? How was he?" "We did not talk much yesterday, but from what I could tell he was courteous but shy. I liked talking to him yesterday and look forward to talk to each other some more. And no doubt do a bit more with him, isn't that correct, sweet sister?" Arthur teased her. "Shut up, Arthur," she scolded him, a slight blush on her face. He just laughed loudly. They crossed the training yard where she could see Lord Benjen practicing his swordplay with 3 men, a soldier who had a weirwood tree and 2 direwolves facing the tree stamped on his leather jerkin. A weirwood warrior, she thought. The other 2 were clearly a Bravasi and a Northerner. She noticed others practicing various weapons in the yard. Even to a person like her, who was not very fluent in swordplay, it was obvious that they were very good and fluent in their motions. She nudged Arthur, who was also looking at them, for his opinion. He looked at her and, understanding her question, said, "They are all very good. In fact, their prowess could match to some of the better knights and lords of the realm." "Are they as good as the Kingsguard?" "Not the Kingsguard, but definitely better than all and any household guards of the Red Keep, including the Targaryen and Lannister men." "So, better than the regular soldiers of the South?" "Definitely better." "What about that man teaching Lord Benjen? The one with the weirwood tree on his jerkin?" "As he is not actually sparring, it is hard to tell, but judging by his stance and the moves he is showing, he must be good." She nodded her head in acceptance and they continued their walk to the Lord's Tower. Ned. Lord Solar. He was finishing up on the financial report sent by Lord Magna of King's House and the Overlord of Skagos. Skagos had made a profit of just over 80,000 gold dragons in the past year. Owing to all the development and construction going on there, these were very good numbers. The Skagasai were currently expanding their fishing and trading fleets to match the demands of the markets. They would soon also expand their war fleet to ensure that peace was kept. There was a knock on his door and Winter raised his head to see who had come. Alaric, one of his guards, came in. "My lord, Lady Ashura and Sir Arthur are here to see you." "Yes, please send them in," he said to the man. Ashura and Sir Arthur came into the room and took a seat at his desk. "How are you this morning, Lady Ashura, Sir Arthur?" "We are good, Lord Stark," Ashura replied. "Well, I am good, but my sister here was disappointed that she did not see you today at the breakfast table," my lord, Arthur said, teasing Ashura, who slapped his shoulder in reply. "I am sorry if I disappointed you, my lady. But I generally take most of my meals here in my solar. I will strive to do better from now onwards," he replied sincerely. "It is fine, my lord. I know that work is important," she replied with a slight blush. "My lady, I have asked you to call me Ned," he said. "Only if you call me Ashura." "Okay then, Ashura. And to answer your reply, work is important but not at the cost of family, Ashura. I have been so busy with my work that I forgot about my family, and I thank you for pointing this out to me," he replied. "It is all right," she mumbled, burning crimson with embarrassment. "So should we go to the Godswood?" he asked them. "Lead the way, my lord," Sir Arthur replied. He stood up from his chair and led them to the door. Winter stood up from the fireplace where he had been resting. Ashura yelped and jumped a bit when he suddenly rubbed his snout on her hand. But Arthur did not panic at all, which told him it was not their first meeting with a direwolf. He had been expecting a stronger reaction from them. "It is all right, Ashura. He is just taking your scent. He knows you are harmless and that you are family," he said, trying to calm her. Winter then started to push his head into Ashura's hand. "He now wants you to rub him behind his ears." She did as was told, and Winter lolled his tongue out in content. "He is behaving just like an overgrown pup," Ashura said. "He is a overgrown pup, isn't that right, Winter?" he said. Winter just kept lolling his tongue under the hands of Ashura. After a few minutes of playing with him, they left his solar and entered the lift. Winter and two Weirwood warriors were with him. "This was not your first encounter with a direwolf, was it not?" he asked, looking at Arthur and Ashura. "No, my lord, it was not. Your siblings arrived with them today while we were breaking our fast. Scared all of the Dornish lords and ladies present there," Sir Arthur said with a light chuckle. "Let me guess. It was Lyanna and Brandon who did this," he said. "Yes, Ned, it was them. But fret not because your lady mother punished them suitably," Ashura said. "If I was to hazard a guess, my lord, I would say it was not the first time they both have done something like this," Arthur said. "You are correct, Sir Arthur. Brandon and Lyanna are always caught doing some stuff or other which is forbidden by the elders. They love to play pranks on others. The wolf's blood is strong in them, my father likes to say. They used to get into all sorts of trouble together when Brandon was still here with us," he said to them. "Forgive me, Ned, but what does your father mean by wolf's blood?" Ashura asked. "Wolf's blood is something that runs in the Stark line, Ashura, same as dragon's blood runs in Targaryens. Wolf's blood gives us superior strength and energy to us, but it also makes us more impulsive and quick to anger, the same way Targaryen blood gives unearthly beauty to them. Magic runs in my family, Ashura. In fact, magic runs strong here in the north, Ashura. I am sure you have seen the giants here. How do you explain that? Or how do you explain the bond that me, my father and each of my siblings share with the wolves? This is a land of skin changers, giants and direwolves, Ashura. This is the land of the wall, the greatest structure ever built. A structure made 700 feet tall, made up of ice and magic which never melts. Not even in the hottest of summers. But, my lord, the Maesters say that there is nothing like magic," Sir Arthur said. "Then sir, explain the bond between me and my direwolf, or between the Targaryens and their dragons," he asked the man as they entered the Godswood. On receiving no answer from him, he continued, "Magic is real, Sir Arthur. You and I may call it magic, the Maesters may call it the higher mysteries, but in the essence we are all referring to the same phenomenon." While Sir Arthur was pondering on all that had been said till now, the three of them reached a fallen trunk and sat there, just content to stay quiet for the time being. "Ned, What made you say that the wall is magical and not just a tall structure? I am not sure, my lady. It is said that when Bran the Builder had built the wall he had asked the children of the forest to imbibe some of their magic into it. And I am inclined to agree to it. Why build a 700 feet tall structure? Why not just 300 or 400 feet tall? If you say something about Grumpkins and Snooks, Ashura, then I will say that a 300 feet tall structure would have been just as capable as a 700 feet structure to stop them. No, something had scared Bran the Builder. Something that he believed was still alive, at least at that time. Mayhaps an ice dragon, Arthur said. Mayhaps, he replied ominously. But enough of these ominous talks, Ashura. Let us talk of something else. Tell me more about yourself. We did not get to talk much yesterday. Tell me, how do you like the North so far? How was it to grow up in Dorne? Dorne is very different than North in some ways but very similar to it in others. Dorne is very hot during summers and pleasant during winters. During summers most of the Martell children like to stay in the water gardens using the many pools of cold water to play and cool themselves. The Martells are like a family to me. Elia is my best friend, or more likely sister. Princess Dyria is for all intents and purposes a mother to me after my own mother passed away when I was young. Doran and Oberyn are like my brothers, she replied. You have cold water pools there in Dorne and we have hot water pools here in Winterfell. My siblings really like to go for a swim regularly, he said. How do you like the North so far, Ashura? Speaking plainly, Ned, the North fascinates me. While coming here to Winterfell, I saw people of different religions and cultures live together in complete harmony. The diversity of the North also befuddles me. I mean, never have I seen people following the old gods, the Seven and also the Urla live together so peacefully. I did not know that there were followers of Urla in Westeros. It makes North more mysterious. You find North mysterious, Ashura? North is not mysterious, Ashura. On the contrary, North is plain and simple. We do not care from where you are or what religion you follow. It is the person that matters. We are all Northerners first, then the followers of old gods or Seven or Urla. In the North there is a saying, the harshest of winters makes the truest of Northerners, which essentially means all those who survive the northern winter are true Northerners to core. Winter removes all unworthy people and only the strongest and the fittest survive. We do not worry ourselves with petty jealousy. We revel in each other's success and cry at each other's loss. We are all one big family. My father says when the snows fall and the white wind blow, the lone wolf dies but the pack survives. That is an ominous way to say a very good thought, Ned, Ashura said with a slight laugh. Ned laughed and said, what can I say, Ashura? We Starks are ominous people. Tell me more about you, Ned. Well, Ashura, there is nothing much to tell you about. My whole life I have strived to make North better. To give it what it deserves. I went to the Citadel for some time to continue my studies there. My father had refused to let me go for some time when I told him I wanted to go to the Citadel, but eventually he allowed me leave. Ever since, the betterment of the North has been the only thing I have strived for. I look forward to start a new journey together, Ashura. It will be a new chapter in my life, in both our lives as a matter of fact. But why did you want to change the North so much, Ned? What reason drove you to work so hard? It cannot be just to better the lives of your people. You would not bring so much change just for the sake of that, she replied. You are correct, Ashura. At first it was for getting our due. For so long have the Southerners thought us nothing but unwashed barbarians just because we were not as rich as them and did not spend monies on frivolities and such. I wanted the Southerners to give us the respect that we are due. We are the longest surviving family which have ruled these lands for a millennia. We are the only people that were never conquered until the dragons came. We are the last bastion of the first men. We deserved respect. But we did not have that respect because we saved our money so that our people could eat during winter. We had to buy crops from the south at ridiculously high rates because we could not grow enough food during summer. So I changed the North, so that we did not have to depend on others to feed ourselves. I changed the North so that my people would not starve to death during winters. I changed the North so that we get what was due to us. Respect. Both Ashura and Arthur were quiet for a long time after his speech, slowly processing what had been said. Eventually Arthur broke the silence. You said that was the reason at first, my lord. What reason do you have now, my lord? You have accomplished all you had set for. Why then this shroud of mystery? Why not shed this shroud and let the South see for what the North has accomplished? Why do all this but still keep it hidden? The answer to that question is simple, sir. War. There is a war coming. It has been coming to the horizon for some time, I do not know when but soon. This war would be the bloodiest in the history of Westeros. I can feel this in my bones. What makes you say that, Ned? And who would be fighting this war? Ashura asked. Targaryens are growing weak. They have been ever since the dance and summer hall. The madness in them is growing stronger. The family is now reduced to a mad head of the house and 2 princes who are not of age yet. One of them which is still a babe at his mother's teats. There is a rebellion coming, Sir Arthur, and I am not sure if the Targaryens would still keep their crown after it. Are you threatening the crown, my lord? Are you saying that you would rise in rebellion against the crown? Sir Arthur growled. You misunderstand me, sir. It is I who is not going to rise in rebellion but others. My father, when he was still Lord Paramount, used to get letters from Lord Tully, regularly for the betrothal between me and his eldest daughter, Lady Catelyn. And now that I am about to be married, he sends me letters for a betrothal between Brandon and his younger daughter, Lady Lysa. Why do you think is he so desperate to tie his family to ours? But before he could continue, Ashura cut in. But that could mean any number of things, she said. That could mean any number of things, but if you would have allowed me to complete, the picture would have been clearer. Now, Lord Arryn is currently fostering both Lord Baratheon and my brother Brandon. If this betrothal that Lord Tully so badly wants, 4 of the 7 great houses would be tied together by either an alliance of marriage or have very close ties like fosterage. Now, Lord Arryn on behalf of Lord Baratheon is secretly in talks with Lord Lannister to broker a deal of betrothal between Lord Robert and Lady Cersei. Lord Lannister wants his daughter to become the Queen of 7 Kingdoms, and if they marry, it would not be very far-fetched leap to say that Lord Baratheon would become the king, who very conveniently has some Targaryen blood through his grandmother. 4 of the 7 lords paramount under one banner, the Tyrells ever grasping that they are would probably wait for the results of the war or pretend to fight the war, especially under fools like Mace Tyrell and a grasping Lady as Olenna Tyrell as their heads. So, essentially the Targaryens stand alone, right now. That is why I have kept the shroud of secrecy, so because during war, the most important thing is the element of surprise. The 2 Dornish were shell-shocked at what had been revealed to them just now. I need to tell the king about this plot at once, Sir Arthur said in panic. No, Sir Arthur. Let the events unfold. You have my promise that till a Stark rules Winterfell, the dragons will be the ones to sit on the throne. It was the dragons my ancestor bent the knee to, not someone other. We will ensure that the Targaryens stay in power. But why wait, my lord? Why shed blood when it could be resolved peacefully? Arthur tried once again. This matter cannot be resolved peacefully, sir. And let there be war, for at the battlefield do we find our true allies. This war will be the mirror that clears who are actually the allies of Targaryens and who are just opportunistic frauds, he replied. But the North is just 1 kingdom, Ned. Surely the North cannot survive against the whole might of 4 kingdoms, Ashura said with trepidation. We can and we will, Ashura. The North has stood for a millennia and it will still stand for a millennia more. But what will you do about the betrothal offer from Lord Tully? Ashura asked again. Truly speaking, Ashura, I do not know. I can keep him stalled for some more time, but I do not know what to do eventually, he replied. The only thing that you can do is to accept the betrothal and try to get close to the conspirators in order to know what they are planning. Sir Arthur said. Like spying on them, Ashura said. Essentially, yes, Arthur said. Give me some time to think over it and consult my father on this topic and I will tell you my answer, Sir Arthur, he said to the man. Very well, Lord Stark, he replied. Needless to say, Sir Arthur, Ashura, what we have discussed here should never be repeated anywhere else. Not to the king, not to Prince Rhaegar, Princess Tyria, Prince Doran or Prince Oberyn, not even to your father. Is that clear? He asked seriously. Yes, Ashura replied immediately, but after some hesitation Arthur also replied in affirmation. If there is a war coming, I would like to keep my blades sharp. What say you, Lord Stark? Will you join me for a spar? Of course, sir. Lead the way. Ashura, if you want you could join us and watch us spar, Ned said. I would be delighted to, Ashura replied. Ashura. As she followed her betrothed and brother to the yard, she thought to what had been discussed earlier. The magnitude of what may happen if the things went the rebels' way was unsettling to say the least. It would change the history of the Seven Kingdoms just as Egon the Conqueror had changed the Seven Kingdoms forever. Ashura, are you all right? Came the sudden voice of Ned. Yes, I am fine. I am just trying to make sense of what we just discussed, she replied in a low voice. Do not worry, my lady, for that moment is far away from us. And I give you my word that I will do everything within my power to ensure that none of our loved ones are harmed. I did not want to tell you this now, but one thing led to another, and the next thing I know I am sharing this secret with you. I am glad you told me about this, Ned. This is a huge burden to carry alone, and it should not be taken alone. We are to be married in 2 days. It is my duty to share these burdens with you, and I am glad you thought me worthy enough of this. It is said that if we share our burdens, our own burdens lessen. Then I will strive to share more secrets and burdens with you, Ashura. I will strive to become the husband you want and deserve. And I will strive to become the wife you need and deserve, Ned, I said, and gathered all my courage and kissed him on his cheek. He turned crimson with embarrassment. Soon we reached the training yard, and he left me in a pavilion and went to the armory. Her brother and Ned soon came out of the armory. Both of them were wearing boiled leather armor. Her brother had 2 blunted longswords which he preferred. Ned came out with a great sword and a shield, which was a bit surprising as most people only used a great sword or a longsword and shield. Well, this should be interesting, came the voice from behind her. She turned and saw her father, Oberyn, and Lord Ricard coming in her direction. Lord Ricard's direwolf went beside Winter and laid down in the sun, apparently at peace. It will be good to see who the better warrior is between the two of them, Lord Ricard continued. Father, Oberyn, good father, I hope you had a good day so far, she greeted and curtsied. Yes, we did, daughter, her father replied. Well, let us see how long Lord Eddard Stark can stand against the Sword of the Morning, shall we, Oberyn said. Well, Prince Oberyn, let us see who wins this encounter, Lord Ricard replied. You cannot expect Lord Eddard to win, Lord Ricard. He is after all fighting against Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, the best fighter Westeros has to offer, after Oberyn said, a bit annoyed and offended. Sir Arthur may be the best sword in the south, but Ned is the best sword in the north, and this encounter may well decide who is the better warrior, Lord Ricard replied. Now she was intrigued, and so was her father and Oberyn. The subjects of their conversation were currently circling each other, waiting for the other person to strike. Lord Eddard lost his patience first and attacked Arthur. Ned attacked, which Arthur parried, then he attacked Ned himself, which was shielded by Ned. Each one would attack and then defend against the other's strike. Even she could see that Ned was as good a warrior as Arthur. Better even, as she had never seen someone fight like this. Oberyn, she said. He understood what she wanted and started describing the encounter to her. Well, I admit that Lord Stark is good. I have never seen someone fight like this before. Lord Stark is very agile and has great speed, which given his size is astonishing. He strikes Arthur, but when Arthur tries to strike back, Lord Eddard has already shifted from his position. Though the shift is small, it is creating problems for Arthur, as he has to either extend himself to land his strike, or he cannot gain enough power in his strikes to create problems for him. Lord Eddard's defense is solid, and so is his offense. I am surprised at how much power he can generate with so little movement of his upper body. It is like water dancing, but not quite, he said to her. Now that Oberyn mentioned it, she could see it. The slight movement of Ned's body just before Arthur's strike. He would step half, sometimes quarter, or even a full foot either to his left, right, forwards or backwards. It was confusing her, and by the look on her brother's face, Arthur was having a hard time judging Ned's next move. So focused was he on penetrating Ned's defense that he overextended himself and lost his balance, which Ned capitalized on, and Arthur lost his left sword. There were looks of surprise on Oberyn and her father's face. Arthur was never disarmed, be it on the battlefield or in the sparring yard. That is why I said that it is not clear who could win this spar, her soon-to-be good father stated. Let this be a lesson for you, Prince Oberyn. Never underestimate your opponent, be it on the battlefield or any other sphere of life. My lord, forgive me if I was rude or I affronted you in any manner. It was not my intention, my Lord Oberyn said. I know, Prince Oberyn, and I was not slighted in the least. I was merely giving you a life lesson. These are the small things which life teaches you. You should be confident, my prince, but never overconfident. These small lessons mark the difference between a green boy and a veteran. Lord Rickard replied. It was good advice that Lord Rickard had given, and she hoped Oberyn would take it to heart. She shifted her attention back to the training yard. She could see that her brother was now struggling to keep up with Ned and was taking some hits on his arms and legs. Nothing serious, but those strikes would leave bruises, that was for sure. After 10 more minutes of fighting, Ned, after a brilliant maneuver, was able to trip Arthur. His knees rested on Arthur's chest and his sword on his neck. Arthur just nodded and accepted his defeat. They both got up, her fiancé helping her brother up, and left for the armory to put back the weapons. Lord Rickard, if I may I ask you a question, it was her father who asked. On getting his nod he continued, where did Lord Eddard learn to fight like this? I have never seen such a style of fighting. After he had been trained by our master at arms and a Bravos Eye water dancer, Ned tried to combine the two styles. He was not exactly successful, as the combination is nothing like either of the two styles, but a new style of swordplay was created. It is called, as you can imagine, as the northern style of fighting, he said with a slight chuckle. Soon Ned and Arthur came and joined them. They talked for a few minutes together before Arthur and Oberyn excused themselves, as ID her father and good father, his direwolf, following him. So, Arthur, how does it feel to be the second best warrior in the realm? Oberyn ribbed. Well, even though I lost to Lord Stark, I am still better than you, Oberyn came her brother's reply as they continued to banter as they walked off. She and Ned were alone there in the pavilion as they both watched the now empty training yard. She wanted to talk to Ned but was unsure of someone listening in on their conversation. Sensing her hesitation, Ned called his guard. Alaric, stand away from the pavilion and make sure that no one disturbs us. Yes, Lord Stark, he replied. He and the another guard stood 20 feet away from the pavilion. Ned then nodded to his direwolf, Winter, who then stood up from his side and joined the two guards, clearly in a guarding position. Ned had been right. His bond to his direwolf was clearly magical. How did you learn to fight like that, Ned? She asked. I finished my Westerosi and Bravos Eye style early, Ashura, and wanted to develop my own style of fighting. So I tried merging them when I was 3 and 10, and this was the result. Now, all the Stark children and the Weirwood warriors are taught this style, he replied. It is astonishing. When I heard that you had managed to forge links at the age of 10, I imagined you to be the bookish type. I did not expect you to be so good with your sword, she replied. I am glad that I surprised you, Ashura, he said with a chuckle. But it does not add up. You dedicated so much of your time studying, then how come you were able to master not one but two styles when you were so young? All right, Ashura, what I am going to tell you now is something that just my father and mother are privy of. No one else knows about this. It is a secret which I am sharing with you because we are going to share our lives together. You cannot repeat any of this to anyone else. Am I clear? He said in a grave voice. She just nodded her head. Whatever was going to be revealed, it was the secret that had played a major role in the development of the North. But because her fiancé had asked, she would never repeat any of this to anyone else. I can remember everything that I have done since I was 6 moons old. Every book I have read, every conversation I have had, everything. It gave me a distinct advantage in my studies and with some concentration in my martial arts. That is why I was able to accomplish so much at such a young age, he replied seriously. How is that possible? No one has ever heard of anything like this before, Ned. Is such a thing even possible? She asked, shocked. The Citadel has yet to discover all the mysteries of the human body and especially how our brains work. Anything is possible. I talked to Maester Lewin once about this, once. I did not tell him that I have such a condition, just in general terms. He told me that it is a possibility that such a thing can happen, though it has never been recorded by the Citadel ever. That means that either I am the first person to have such a condition or that no one has ever reported, he replied back. She took her time to gather her thoughts on this. It was possible that such a condition can happen. They did not know a lot about the human anatomy and next to nothing about the human brain. So this is how you were able to do so many things in such a short time. But it still does not explain how you were able to change the North so much. I mean to say that I understand why you brought the changes but not how you did so, she said after a long time. Let us just say that the North has tapped into some resources that no one had previously thought of tapping into. The North had been focused on surviving for such a long time that we forgot to thrive. All we focused on was the next winter and how to survive it. My father and I changed that mentality, he replied. So the North has a lot of resources at its disposal which the previous lords of the North did not exploit. The North has a lot of mountains, so that means that the Westerlands is not the only kingdom producing precious metals now, she said in understanding. That is essentially correct, my lady. We found some precious metals and gems which we used for the betterment of the North. Its living conditions, infrastructure and health care. We undertook a lot of projects simultaneously and every person living in the North did their part in ensuring that all of them were a success, he replied. That is incredible, my lord. So, Ashura, tell me more about yourself. What do you like to do? Ned asked her. Well, I like to read, Ned, about history and mathematics. I also like to ride. We would go for rides around the dunes near Sunspear or the water gardens. What in history and mathematics do you like to read about? I like to read about the kings and queens of old. I like to read about Westeros before it became a single kingdom. I also have a pretty good understanding of numbers. What about you, Ned? What do you like to read about? She replied. Well, I have read a lot, my lady. I like to read about all types of sciences and mathematics, especially algebra. That is interesting, my lord. But why algebra? We can solve all problems of science and construction with simple and advanced algebra, my lady. So you are the architect behind the construction and reconstruction going on in the North? Yes, my lady. I designed all the plans for all the major northern constructions. From designing the new Winterfell and Moat Cailin to designing better sewage systems for all the major towns and cities of the North, I did all of them. Sewage systems, my lord. What do you think the current population of Wintercity is, my lady? Well, I think around 150,000 people live here currently. That is incorrect, my lady. Wintercity's current population is around 275,000 people. You must be japing. There is no way that almost 275,000 people live in this city. There is no smell, no overcrowding and no slums here. Even Sunspear has some smell and slums and only about 200,000 people live there. That is the difference between a well-planned city and sewage system and an unplanned one, my lady. The North is having a population boom currently, and in 2 decades we expect the North's population to reach almost 7.5 or even 8 million people. So we decided to plan the cities and towns accordingly. They will be expanded in a planned way to ensure the sanity in the North is maintained. The North will not become the new King's Landing. That is a good plan, my lord. Ashura, we should be going. Otherwise we would be late for midday luncheon. Ned stood up first and then helped her up. They both left the pavilion arm in arm. She felt safe and at home with him. Her fiancé was good and kind-hearted person and she was falling in love with him. They reached the Great Hall in silence, just enjoying each other's presence. The Great Hall was filled with all the lords and ladies of the North as well as Dawn. The whole family was sitting on the raised dais. The luncheon was just about to start. Ned sat at the middle of the table and she joined him to his right. They were all talking and japing together when her mother suddenly addressed Ned. Lord Stark, House Dane and Martell would like to talk to you at your convenience about some things, her mother said. We can talk after the luncheon. But if I may be prudent, your grace, may I ask what it is about, he replied. We would like to discuss some trade arrangements with you, my lord, she replied. Even we have some propositions for you, your grace. We, that is my father and I, will meet your entourage in my solar, your grace, he replied. After luncheon she and the rest of her family met in the antechamber of the Great Hall. Lord Dane, Oberyn, Doran and Ashura will join me and go to the meeting. The rest of you can carry on with your day, she said. Arthur and rest of the people left and they all went to the Lord's Solar to meet with the Starks. Ned and Lord Rickard were sitting on the table. There was a sofa where she, Oberyn and Doran sat. Her father and mother joined Lord Rickard and Ned at the table. "Lord Stark, Lord Rickard, thank you for meeting us on such a short notice," her mother said. "It is all right, Your Grace. After all, we are to become family soon. As you were the one to call this meeting, you should be the one to start the dialogue," Ned replied. "Lord Stark, as we do not know exactly what the North produces, so we have a general layout of the plan. Dorne, as know, is under a bit of trade recession. We cannot import or export materials which have high trade tax. We need something cheap and abundantly present to start our trading operations," her mother said. "We do have something on that front, Your Grace. The North would like to sell you coal. It is a type of fuel which burns hotter than charcoal and produces better quality of steel. It will help your smithies and your steel will be sought after by the whole realm. As for the rest of Dorne, we would like to buy more spices from you," Ned said. "But the spices we produce is just sufficient for our own consumption. If we export these items, then our own people would have a shortage. We do not have sufficient fresh water to increase its production," Doran said. "That is why we will also send you ice and snow, Your Grace. We will supply you with enough fresh water to increase your production of crops. In exchange we will also be buying sand from you, Your Grace," Ned replied. "Sand?" her mother asked. "Yes, Princess Dirya, sand. We need sand for our construction works. So we will trade ice and coal in exchange of spices and sand, if you do not have any objections," he replied. On getting her mother's nod, he sat back in his chair. "We can discuss further trade arrangements as and when required, my lord," she said. Ned nodded his head and no one raised any objections. "It looks like we have a deal here," he said. He stood up and went to his cabinet and picked out glasses and then a flask of whiskey from his cabinet. He passed a glass to everyone and then said, "Let me propose a toast on this auspicious moment. To North and Dorne, may this be a new dawn of relationship between the two great nations and may it last for several centuries," he said. North and Dorne, they all said and drank the toast. Notes. "Hi, guys, there is some bad news. My semester exams are coming up, so I will not be able to post any more chapters for the next 3 to 4 weeks. I have added a map of the North for reference. The Delta-type region on the Sewin lands near the bifurcation of the White Knife River is the region where the gold mines of the Starks were. The area which is marked as hills there are actually mountains. The Moat Cailin also has another port town roughly 20 to 30 leagues away at the end of the Fever River. The canal joining White Harbour and Moat Cailin was named Fever Canal for this reason. If anyone wants to know, then the northern style of swordplay somewhat resembles the Indian subcontinental type of swordplay and martial arts, quick movements and short jabs. I hope you liked the chapter. In the next chapter we will have the marriage of Ned and Ashura. See you in a few weeks. Chapter 5, The North Explained. Summary. Ned explains the North to Ashura. Notes. Hi, guys. I am sorry I have not been able to upload any chapters in a while. First, life got in the way and then I had to suffer through a writer's block. The first 4 chapters of this fic are under review as there are some discrepancies in the data. The data in this chapter is the true data on the North. I will change the datas in the first 4 chapters as soon as possible. This is a big chapter. Just 3 words shy of 17k. Hope you like it. See the end of the chapter for more notes. Chapter text. Ned. Winterfell. 272 AC. The next day. After the meeting, the Martells, Danes and Starks celebrated their agreements. The whole family had a private dinner yesterday night. And now, he was waiting for his betrothed in his solar. He had asked her to come here today to tell her more about the North. The talk that they had yesterday was nice and they both got to know each other a little better. But today their talks would mostly be about the North. If she was to become the next Lady of Winterfell and take an active role in the governance of the kingdom, then she had to know the actual strengths and weaknesses of the North. She had to understand all the intricacies of the northern economy, society and military might. He was happy with his betrothed. Though they had not yet fallen in love, there had been a certain spark between them when they had talked yesterday. She was beautiful, kind and had a wicked sense of humor and a sharp tongue which he had observed in her interactions with her siblings and foster family. And above all he knew that she was as dedicated to family as he was. She would put family above all else, and he was hopeful that she would soon see the Starks as her family, just as the Danes and Martells. He also hoped that his younger brothers and sister would also see her as a part of the pack, just as his mother and father did. There was a knock on his door, and Alaric came in. "Lady Ashura is here to see you, my lord." Winter, his ever-faithful companion, who was lying down near the fireplace, looked up on hearing Ashura's name. "Thank you, Alaric. Please send her in." Alaric went out, and in came Ashura. She was wearing a beautiful purple coat with silver work and white fur. She looked mesmerizing in the dress. As she came in, Winter got up and walked over to her for a petting. She chuckled and indulged him. When she joined him on his desk, Winter took the other two empty chairs and put his head on her lap, seemingly going for a nap. She was playing with Winter's fur when he said, "Good morning, my lady. I hope you had a wonderful night's sleep." "Yes, I did. And please, my lord, I have told you to call me Ashura," she replied with a playful smirk. "Okay then, Ashura, you will call me Ned and I will call you Ashura. No more my lord or my lady business." "Agreed." "Agreed," she said with a firm nod. "So, Ashura, I have called you here today to tell you about the North. Not the general or mystic answers, but the truth about the North. I did not tell you about it yesterday, but if you want to be an integral part of ruling this kingdom, then you need to know about it." "Okay, thank you for divulging such knowledge to me. But I have to ask you, what has changed today? Yesterday you did not want to tell me of such things, and today here we are," she said, a bit hurt. "Nothing's changed from yesterday. I wanted to meet you yesterday for the same, but then I became a bit busy with some work, including the trade deals we signed yesterday, and so I had to postpone it for today. It is not complicated per se, but very lengthy, and we will need to discuss a lot of things. So are you ready?" "Yes," came the simple reply. "So the growth of the North actually started when I was 6 moons shy of my 7th name day. I requested my Lord Father to go to the citadel. Not to swear my vows. Just to forge my links and just gather knowledge. Naturally he was shocked and refused at first, but I was able to convince him. I made a machine which could make multiple copies of any book within hours. That machine was the first and a very important step towards the northern development. Due to this machine my father was convinced to send me to the citadel. I took the machine and several servants whom I had taught to read and write. Due to this machine, called the printing press, I was able to make several copies of all the tomes and the scrolls in the citadel. The library of Winterfell and Wintercity have the biggest collection of books in the known world, shocking his betrothed. And I know what are you thinking, why is this machine not a common knowledge in the South? And my answer is simple. If the knowledge was made public to the South, the prices of the books would drop drastically. Right now each book can sell for up to a gold dragon or at least 100 silver stags, whereas the cost to print one of these books is at most 10 silver stags. So we make a lot of profit by selling tomes to the South and even to Essos. Due to the printing press, we have the most comprehensive library in the world, which is used by our maesters, scholars and healers to further develop the North. With me so far?" he asked, seeing her shocked face. On receiving a nod he continued. "So, a few moons after I reached the citadel I found out that the North had never had a geographical survey. A survey for the population, yes, but not for the various resources the North had. So, I asked my father to do a geographical survey of the North. Various scholars and master miners were brought from Essos. The scholars tested the lands for productivity and the miners were brought, seeing that the North had abundance of mountains. The scholars told us which crops were suited for which regions and we followed their guidance. But the major shock came from the miners. North was very rich in a lot ores, precious metals and gems. It took many a years to complete the survey, and some parts of the mountains are still being surveyed by us, but within moons it was clear that the North had abundant gold, silver and copper in its mountains. The master miners had told my father that some of the ores which we had, namely aluminium, titanium and coal, were new and were not found anywhere. As I was studying metallurgy at that time, I asked my father to send me some samples. I studied the characteristics of the metals individually and in combination. And thus by combining steel, aluminium and titanium together I forged a new steel blade. Lighter than normal steel, this northern steel was more stronger and more durable. We think that northern steel may be more stronger than Valyrian steel, but we have not yet tested it, as Valyrian steel is hard to reforge. After this I asked my father to come to Old Town, where I told him my plan. There was a knock on the door and a servant came in carrying some refreshments. So, at the age of 7 you basically invented a machine that could revolutionize the world of literature, and a few moons later again invented a new type of steel. No wonder the North is so rich, she said after the servant had left. I had a lot of help from other low-born acolytes who were not as connected as others. Most of them are now in the North working as scholars to better the Northern society, Ned said, trying to diminish his achievements. All he got was a chuckle in response. Continuing with his story, so the plan that I had told my father was simple: we will start mining gold, silver and copper immediately. And to protect the mines we will make 2 fortresses on the entrances to those ranges. The mountains were unclaimed by any of the northern houses, so the land was under House Stark's dominion. Once the fortresses were complete, we started to mine aggressively to gather more riches. We built the city of Avalon, in the northern mountain ranges for the mountain clans of the north using this gold. Prior to this the mountain clans used to live peacefully but separately. As those ranges contained all of the ores and some silver mines, I taught them the art of making northern steel as well as aluminium working. They learned from me, and then they divided themselves as miners or smiths and started making northern steel and aluminium works. Today most of the northerners use utensils made of aluminium. Each clan has their own mines, miners, smiths and metal workers. They are governed by a council instead of a lord. But what about the population boom in the north? You cannot say that the population increased so much in so little time. And some of them even look Tisosai. And to construct a whole city in just a few years is not possible. Ashura exclaimed. I am getting to it. You see, everything was very easy but still intricate, and a balance was to be maintained. When we first started to mine gold, silver and copper, we did not immediately start the building processes on other lands. The 2 castles to guard the mines were paid from our own coffers. During that time we bought slaves from Essos. We of course freed them as soon as they were on our lands. But mostly we captured slavers' ships using the Mandaeali fleet and gave the people the option to join us in the north. We have bought or freed approximately 2.5 million slaves in the past 12 years. So we bolstered our own numbers and made a powerful ally in the form of Bravos. We bought 850,000 people and the rest of them were freed once our navy was strong enough. The total population of the north today is around 5 million people. But we could not feed so many people all at once with the productivity of that time. So we not only brought rice, which is a staple food form of Yeti, but also brought several herds of the yaks which were found beyond the wall. Rice is grown easily in freshwater marshes, so not only several leagues of the neck were cleared to grow them but also small canals along the rivers and southern part of the long lake. The bifurcation of the rivers, which we northerners now call as deltas, are also the most fertile areas to grow them. And rice can survive for many years once it has been properly dried, given that it is not infested with rats and other rodents. So, storing them is not a problem. The yaks were given to the Sawins for they have the most pastoral lands. They are the butchers and tanners of the north. So you see, Ashura, we had to maintain a very delicate balance. Too much population and our people would have gone hungry, and too little population and our lands and crops would have been left untended. Even today not all the lands along the rivers are occupied. We can further increase our rice and meat production, and we will do so as our population will further increase gradually. We have stopped buying and actively freeing slaves. If we come across a slaver's ship while patrolling, we of course free the captives. Ashura nodded her head in acceptance of his answer. She could understand the degree of balance required during that period. She was bursting to ask about the giants but contained herself, knowing that Ned would tell her about them. Not one house in the north is more powerful than the others. Food production is scattered among multiple houses. And the Starks control food distribution among its vassals. It was a brilliant idea proposed by my father. You see, when we were buying forward/freeing slaves, he got the idea of creating a register to know where and how many people were going. It escalated into a full-blown scheme, and today every citizen of the north is registered here. Each and every person is to register here, be they base-born or true-born. With the help of printing press, we know every person that was born or has died, what their occupation and qualifications are, and everything else. You see, every person in the north is now given a piece of parchment on which their name, date of birth, parents' name and the place where they were born is written and sealed. As they grow up, their qualification is written, and then once they start working, their occupation and the people they have worked for also goes into the parchment. And before you say how that is possible, I will tell you. The midwives and healers which deliver a baby have these parchments. The parents of the baby fill one copy of the parchment and the other copy is filled by the midwives and healers. The healers submit their copies to the office of the mayors, which I will tell you about later, after the birth, and the parents fill theirs and then go to the office to get it stamped. Once the clerk checks both the forms and everything matches, the clerk stamps both the parchments. One is given to the parents of the baby and the other is kept by the office. The office notifies the lord of those lands of the birth, and another copy is made by the maester. He tells his liege lord and he makes another copy, and so on so forth till it reaches my office, or more appropriately the Office of Public Welfare, which is currently headed by my father. He has 200 people working under him currently. So he knows the exact population density of the north and tells me how much food is to be sent to which of my vassals. Those vassals know how much food is to be sent to their vassals, and so on so forth until it reaches the general population. Sounds complicated? Ashura stated, a bit frustrated. And does the north truly have so many people who can read and write? It is not complicated. Here let me give you an example. Let Benjen be a landed knight who has 5 villages under him. If anyone is born in one of those villages, then the office of that village give the parents their forms and send a message through the rider that a child was born there. His own office will make a form with all his details and then further send the message to his liege, who for example is Sir Roderick. Now in Sir Roderick's area a total of 10 babies were born. He will make a form for all 10 of them with the details provided and send it further to Mandaelis, for example. The Mandaelis will have 50 babies born in their lands, and they will then make a form for all the babies and send the details to Winterfell. Now in the north a total of 500 babies were born, and we will make the forms for every one of them and record them. In the same way, if a family leaves a particular village and goes to another village and both villages are under Benjen's rule, even then both the villages will notify him of the family's movements. If the family goes to another man's village, then that village will notify it to its liege and he will notify it to Benjen, Ned said. Sounds tedious. It is. Though a family rarely leaves its lands and settles on another land. Does the north really have so many literate people? At first it was difficult. We did not have many literate people, so only the freed slaves that came were monitored, but with them we also got many literate people who further started to teach other people like midwives. The maesters and scholars also started to teach people words and letters. Slowly the amount of literate people increased, and today almost 800,000 adults out of 3.5 million adults and all the children under the age of 10 will know how to learn and write. At first people thought it was a waste of time, but slowly as awareness grew, so did the numbers. We even have specialized schools for everything from farming to military schools, and the yields are astonishing, he said with a smile. A lot of people had begun to question his father's orders and were starting to look to him. Though none had disrespected him, a lot of the lords were going behind his back and asked him about the orders given by his father. He had in the eyes of some lords become the figurative head and him the actual one. But through this plan, his father had made a statement. Even though he was the reason behind a lot of development in the north, his father also was his own person and will leave behind something to remember him by. So, the Starks know about all the people of the north. Where they live, what they do, and even how many family members they have, Ashura said, pulling him out of his thoughts. Yes, through this we can send aid to people as soon as possible during the next winter. And in another 20 to 25 years the whole of the north will be literate. Through the different schools a farmer's son could become a very well-known general in the army or a very rich merchant, he replied. But how will you be able to reach this goal? Surely the people cannot leave their fields and go to schools to learn their letters, she asked. No, they cannot, so we take the schools to them. We have hired 500 scholars who go to each village and town and teach them letters and skills in farming and maintaining farming equipments. We have taught them crop rotation. We can have up to 6 harvests every year in the areas where the scholars have taught. This is increasing their productivity and making them richer. They also teach the small folk how to better store rice, meat, fish and other food items. So the longevity of food items is also increased. Who are these scholars? Well, scholars are different from maesters. They are generally acolytes who have forged a single link or know a lot in a particular field. They are also maesters who were expelled from the guild due to some reason or the other. Then there are the Asosai freedmen who could read and write and would teach others in their skill. Like there is this young girl named Missandei of Nath who is learning several different languages from different scholars. She travels with them while they teach common tongue to the small folk. Language is a barrier which was the biggest hurdle to overcome during our initial stages. But it was soon overcome due to the diligent and hard work of all people involved, he said with a smile. Now to understand the Institute of Scholars better I will tell you about them some more. A scholar, as I have told you, has knowledge in a particular field. For example, if a person has knowledge of 2 or 3 languages, he is called a scholar. Generally a scholar is proficient in common tongue and another language like Low or High Valyrian. They travel through the lands and teach people common tongue, especially the freed slaves. They teach them to speak, read and write common tongue, but they also teach interested small folk their other language, like in this case Low or High Valyrian. Now if a scholar is proficient in the field of medicine, then they are called as healers. The healers are trained to combat the general diseases that the small folk have, fevers, headaches, upset stomach and as such. Then after scholars come high scholars. They are more knowledgeable than the scholars and train them. They have more knowledge and experience in their particular field. A scholar can become a high scholar by gaining more experience and knowledge. They have to write a test to prove their knowledge. For every 10,000 people we have a high scholar, and they generally live in towns. They and their apprentices teach students in the schools in the towns. Now because we have low numbers of scholars right now, the scholars wander through the villages, but we plan to have a scholar in languages, farming and medicine in each and every village. The high scholars also do some research. The high scholars who slightly evolved a better technique and increased production or have made a more efficient way of doing a particular task are awarded the title of Master Scholar. Every city and all major towns of the north have a Master Scholar. Now Master Scholars mostly do research work but also tend to severe cases of illness in case of Master Healers. The research of Master Scholars is funded by the major vassals of House Stark. Now, if a Master Scholar researches a particular field and finds new avenues in that field, they are given the title of Grand Scholars, which is the highest honor to be given. The Master Scholar has to write a paper called a thesis and then prove the existence of his thesis with a working example called an experiment. The Grand Scholars of that field convene and see the viability of that experiment, and if proven correct they give the title of Grand Scholar to that Master Scholar. The Grand Scholars only do experiments and research to better their fields, and they are funded completely by House Stark. The healthcare of the North is very big, and we are trying to give the best healthcare to all the people. For every 1,000 people we currently have 5 skilled midwives, and we are trying to increase that number up to 20. Once the number reaches 10 we will start a new policy to have a baby boom in the North. Also for every 1,000 people we have 20 healers, and we are trying to get those numbers up to 50. We expect that in the next 5 to 7 years we will be able to achieve those numbers. With the baby boom we want to increase our population up to 15 million in the next 20 years. But with cleaner habitation and proper sanitation facilities the people are already healthier and stronger. So, in the next 20 years the population of the North will be similar to that of the South. Yes, we are aiming for that. But how can you train so many midwives in such a short time? The experienced midwives take in apprentices similar to high healers. Each experienced midwife has 10 apprentices with them. The apprentices gain experience from the midwives in common illnesses and post-birthing complications while also studying rarer complications from the books. Remember Ashura, books in the North are cheap, and every midwife has books on all known birthing illnesses and complications. If they find a new technique in healing they send it to the scholars and master healers who study this technique, and if proven right they are also get added into the books. What about religion? Surely so many different people living together would create some problems. The Northerners follow the old gods of the trees, as you know, with the exception of Mandaealis who follow the 7. Most of the Asosai converted to the old gods when they arrived. Their reason is that they were made slaves when they followed their own gods, but it was the old gods who gave them the gift of freedom, and they will forever be their followers for granting them this gift. There are some who follow Arla, but they are few, and their priests are banned from ever trying to sacrifice anyone. When found guilty, they will be beheaded as any common criminal. The Dothraki still follow their great mounted stallion, but they do not harass people of other faiths. There are Dothraki in the north, she asked. Incredulous. Some. They are also freed slaves. They mostly tend to the large herds of yaks for Sawins and train our own cavalry, he replied. Okay, this is a very diverse land. He laughed and said, that it is. Then he continued, so, once we had enough manpower and money, we started our projects. The lords began to invest their money in the projects that we thought was the most suitable for them. Like the Ryswells and Dustins began crossbreeding the northern horses with special horses we had imported from Essos. The northern horses now are larger and stronger, the trait which they got from the Essosi horses, but their diet is still less than that of a horse of a similar size, a trait of the previous northern horses. The Boltons began brewing whiskey. The Ryswells also began making northern wine, which is better than Arbor Gold and Dornish Red. And, yes, that is the reason why Dorn and Red wines have lost a lot of their market. The Northern Red and the Northern Gold wines are better, but due to low export they are expensive outside of North and Bravos. A single cask of Northern wine is sold for 20 gold dragons in the south and the rest of Essos. I had tasted some of it on the ship during our trek up north and it was really good, so I cannot really begrudge you for that. With the supply of whiskey and Northern wine, the demand of Dornish Red really decreased. But the quality of your wine is really good, so I really cannot complain about it, she said. After some thought she continued, why did I not see the flayed pink man of House Bolton here? Have they not arrived? Seeing the riches of the North, House Bolton along with Houses Dustin and Ryswell rebelled against us after some of the crimes of Bolton and Ryswell were brought to light. House Dustin supported them because the daughter of Lord Dustin was betrothed to Lord Bolton. They were accused of slavery. The Lords Bolton and Ryswell sent their men beyond the wall and captured free folk to work for them under horrific conditions. This accusation was brought forward by young Lord Mark Ryswell, son and heir of the then Lord Ryswell. Houses Dustin and Bolton were put to sword. Bethany Dustin, the last of her house, is now betrothed to Mark Ryswell and will be the last of her house. Once she marries, the lands of House Dustin will be given to someone else. All the vassals of House Bolton were also put to sword as they were willing accomplices. Their lands were then given to the free folk who were slaved, and seeing their plight, all the northern lords with the encouragement from House Stark lead an envoy to the land of Always Winter, and asked the tribes to come with us to south of the wall. These people were given the lands of House Bolton, seeing as they were better bros. The small folk of these lands were moved to the returned lands of the new gift. The free folk have a similar arrangement to the mountain clans of the north. Though the giants are having some problems and are petitioning to move to the new gift, and I am inclined to give them leave. The giants have been a great help in all the construction work being taken up in the north. The new gift that was returned to House Stark has been divided into 4 parts. The fertile lands of the gift is where the Bolton small folk were relocated, and they have been thriving there. There they grow potatoes, peas and onions and are doing very well. The pastures of that land was divided into 2 parts. Lord Hornwood's second son was given a keep there, and they started the cultivation of ironwood trees not only on their lands but also on those lands as well. The Northern Navy is to be formed with ironwood, and some ships were made of ironwood, but we risked severely depleting our ironwood grooves, so it was halted. More than 200,000 ironwood saplings have been planted in the new land given to House Hornwood. His son will take up his seat soon. The rest of the pasture land is being used for yaks as their numbers grew too much and was creating problems for Sawins to control them. Also, with such high numbers, we risked the yaks eating too much of pasture, leaving behind barren lands. That area does not have a current lord, and I would give it to some loyal bannerman or to a future son of mine, he said with slightly red cheeks. The giants can make their own keep there and rear their mammoths there. I plan to divide the mammoths into 3 parts, as animals of burden, as animals for slaughter for meat and fat, and as animals for wool collection. The hair of the mammoths is very soft and is very warm. The mammoths can also be a terrifying weapon of war, but the mammoths can be controlled only by giants, and the giants who have come south of the wall are peaceful people, and I do not want to force them into war. They earn their money by working at construction sites and by selling mammoth wool. I will broach the subject of mammoth meat when I tell them about my decision of giving them new lands. Now I am thinking about dividing these lands into 3 parts. Half from Lord Hornwood's lands and the rest from Stark lands, and give it to the giants so that they can live there, he said with uncertainty. How was the reaction of Lord Hornwood when you gave him these lands, and are they loyal to you? Ashura asked him. Lord Hornwood is one of my most loyal lords, and he was very happy when I gave him these lands. So if you tell him of your plight and politely ask him if you could take some part of his land away, he will most likely not begrudge you for it. Take some of his lands and the rest from our lands, so your problem would be solved, she replied. Okay, then tomorrow morning I will talk to him about it. Good. So the North trades in different things. The free folk trade in whiskey and alcoholic beverages, Hornwoods provide wood for the navy, Roswells and Dustin or their replacement will trade in horses, but what about the rest of the lords? Lord Marndale has silver mines in his lands which he has expanded. He also has a large trading fleet and sells seafood to other lords, especially here to Winterfell and Wintercity. The Skaggasai have most of the gem mines of the north. The only other place gems are found are in and around the caves along the Long Lake. The Skaggasai also have granite mines which contain skagstone, the material from which Winterfell and Moat Cailin were reconstructed. They are stronger than normal granite and have higher resistance to heat and cold. It was also used to build all the new castles which were being built in the north. Now, a lot of the lords are also using it to rebuild their castles. They also have a large fishing and trading fleet. The Mormonts sell wood and furs to the north and rest of the south, and so do the Glovers. They have large fishing fleets and a lot of trading vessels, but their largest income is from shipwrights. They both have a lot of shipwrights and dry docks to construct new vessels which they then take it to Essos through the canals and sell them there. They get a lot of profit from it. They also have a large fleet of war vessels to protect themselves from Ironborn raiders, and also 50 ships from the Stark fleet, called as the Sea Wolves, are present there at all times to protect Deepwood Motte and Bear Island from the Ironborn. My grandfather, Lord Karstark, sells wood to Essos and also has a lot of shipwrights and a large amount of trading, fishing and warships. He also produces a lot of rice on his lands. The Umbers of Last Hearth have a lot of pasture lands. They have some yaks, but they mostly have sheep, and they provide wool to all of the north and also export it in large amounts. The Reeds of the Neck produce the largest amount of rice in the north. They sell it to the other houses and earn a lot of coin. But their largest income comes from providing rare herbs and trees which cannot be found anywhere else in the known world. These herbs and trees have proven to cure diseases which were previously thought incurable. They have plantations of these herbs and trees, and they sell it to us and Essos, he said. But he could see the question burning in her eyes, so he continued. We have a very nice relationship with Bravos and the Iron Bank. We sell these herbs and the rest of our products to Bravos. They buy it from us, leaving us with a lot of profit, and then sell it at even higher prices. We are not selling these products directly to the south and the rest of Essos for two reasons. First, we want to keep our anonymity. There are no little birds or spiders or spies of other kingdoms here in the north. But the same cannot be said about the rest of the world. If northern vessels sell their goods at different places, questions will be raised. Questions which we do not want to answer right now, due to the reasons we discussed yesterday. Currently our fleet sails into Bravos under a different banner. The people of Bravos think we are some strange people from a strange land who were hired by the Sea Lord to sell the products of our lands. They do not know that we are northerners. Now the second and a more important reason. Currently the southerners buy the products at a price that is 3 times the actual value of the product. Once we remove the veil of secrecy and start selling our products under our own banner, we can sell it at a slightly lower price, even when the market is flooded with our products. Right now our productions are low as we are still removing some of the kinks and stockpiling our products. Also Bravos is selling the extra products which are left after their own consumption. It further increases the price of the products. The quality of our products is good, so the demand is high but the supply is low. So the price of our products are high. Once the veil of secrecy is removed, we will make millions of gold dragons. But if we stop selling our products to Bravos, will their economy not hamper? Won't they be cross with us? She asked, curiously. No, we had this arrangement with the Sea Lord of Bravos. He knows that this arrangement will not last forever. Even after the veil of secrecy is removed, Bravos will get preferential treatment from us. We will sell our products to them at a cheaper rate than the rest of the world, but if they want to sell our products further, they will be sold at a price determined by us. Currently, Due to this arrangement, the Bravasi are making a profit of several million gold dragons every year. Even when our arrangement stops, the Bravasi will still get the same amount of trade that they previously had, though with a slight increase due to the northern trade favoring them. They will still remain as one of the most powerful cities of Essos. But they would have amassed a vast fortune by our agreement. So, I think there will not be anything to be cross about. He said, and she nodded after a thoughtful look. He then continued. With all the mines and trade that is House Stark is making a profit of nearly 10 million gold dragons each year. Most of this money is again invested to further the infrastructure of the north. We are currently taking up two major endeavors. We are rebuilding the roads of the north so that during winter no area is unreachable. We have also started construction of a new canal which joins Sea Wolf Point, previously known as Sea Dragon Point, to White Knife via Winterfell. It will better connect the north to Essos. But if we build this canal, then the Ironborn could penetrate all the way up to Winterfell, before they could be stopped. Ashura said. We are constructing two keeps on either side of the mouth of the canal, and a castle and town at Sea Dragon Point will ensure the safety of the north from the Ironborn. The same is being done on the Fever River and Fever Canal. These keeps will have the same mechanism as that of the Titan of Bravos to keep any intruders out. We will also build keeps along the canals and river to ensure our safety in the future. And who will pay for all these new endeavors? We will. Our bannermen will pitch in a bit of the money, but House Stark will shoulder most of the costs. Why should House Stark shoulder so much of the burden? Why not ask all the parties involved to contribute to the funds equally, she asked. Well, there are two reasons for that. The first is that the bannermen are currently upgrading and reconstructing their own keeps and their lands. So they do not have enough funds of their own right now. And secondly, and most importantly, all the money that House Stark has, by collecting taxes and through our mines, if it is not reintroduced into our economy, the value of the gold, silver, copper will decrease and our whole economy will collapse, or so our maester says. We need to put the money back into the market to ensure that does not happen. That is not the problem of my bannermen currently, as they are putting the money back into circulation through their own reconstructions. But soon in the near future even they will have to face the same problems as us. I am at my wit's end thinking about what we will do once all the construction work is done. He said, frustrated. She had a calculating look on her face. After some time she replied. I think I have a plan to tackle this, Ned, she finally said with a smirk on her face. If you will give me the exact numbers of how much money you are receiving and how much of it you are spending, then I can give you my exact proposal, she finished. She took a parchment and the ink and quill and started taking notes on the expenditure of House Stark. Well, as I told you, currently House Stark is receiving a total of 10 million gold dragons every year. We send 700,000 gold dragons to the crown as taxes, which is the highest amount of gold a kingdom has to send to the crown, based on the categories, as decreed by Aegon V. Targaryen, and has not changed since. We are currently spending 425,000 gold dragons on our army, which is the salary of the men, and 350,000 gold dragons on our navy, including the salary and deployment cost. We further spend 72,500 gold dragons to equip our armies with northern steel. The construction of keeps and the canal should take 1 million gold dragons every year. We are spending more than 1 million gold dragons on our small folk, and we give 500 gold dragons to our grand scholars for their research work. He finished. So a total profit of 5,952,500 gold dragons every year. She calculated all the money in her head and he was impressed. Of that amount we have sent 3 million gold dragons to the Iron Bank this year. So much money, she exclaimed. Yes, according to our treaty we have to keep a minimum balance of 20 million gold dragons in the next 5 years. So, for this reason we have sent so much money to the Iron Bank, for the last 3 years. Previous to that we sent 1 million gold dragons. Before that we had been paying out a loan which we had taken from them previously. So the current Stark account in the Iron Bank contains 10 million gold dragons. We plan to have 25 million gold dragons there, 20 million as per our treaty and another 5 just for safekeeping and earning interest. And for how long do we need to keep so much money there, she asked. For another 25 years. After that the amount will come down to 10 million gold dragons. He replied. She nodded. And do you expect a change in these numbers anytime soon? She asked. Yes, in 6 years we will begin to expand our war vessels. We will replace a lot of current fleet with ships made of ironwood, and the replaced ships will then become House Stark's trading fleet. Also our armies will grow every year, increasing the amount by 126,000 gold dragon every year, and will take 3,580,000 gold dragons every year once it is completely finished training, which will take approximately 28 years. When our new ships will be built, it will take 5 years and a total cost of 1 million gold dragons every year for that alone, whereas by that time our navy will be fully efficient and will cost 1,130,000 gold dragons every year. After that period of time the Stark trading fleet will increase to 700 ships and we will see an increase in trade. By the end of this decade we are expecting our income to increase from 10 million gold dragons to 16 to 17 million gold dragons. Our expenditure is expected to be around 10 to 12 million gold dragons once all our armies are ready and our population boom has happened, even counting our current construction costs. Also with the expansion of our trade we will have to pay more taxes. It will be around 1 million to 1,100,000 gold dragons every year, if there is an increase in taxes, he explained to her. Give me a sennight to figure out all the expenditure and profits and I will get back to you with my final proposal, she said, putting the quill down. He could see her brain turning, trying to figure out all the numbers. Of course, Ashura. Take all the time you need. The construction work will take several years. But may I ask what your proposal is? He replied. I am thinking of starting a bank here in Winter City. But instead of catering only to the rich and powerful lords and nobles, we will give out loans to the small folk. The increase in their income will also mean that they will want to spend more money. They can take loans from the bank and indulge their dreams. I am not sure how to keep track of the money we lend, but I will figure something out. Also it will be better if all the lords also store their extra money in the bank. She said. The idea has merit. If we cater to the small folk, the Iron Bank will not be displeased, as they will keep their clients, but also the circulation of money in our vaults will be easier. He said, and she smiled. There was a knock on the door. A servant came in. My lord, my lady, it is time for luncheon. Will you two eat in the great hall or should we serve you the food here? I just raised my brow in a silent question. The decision was hers. We will eat here itself. Please serve us our food here, she replied curtly. Very well, my lady, the servant said as she walked out. They talked idly for a few minutes when she came back with a few more servants. They had their luncheon with them. The food was set up at the table in his solar. They both left the desk and sat facing each other. They made small talk during their meal. Winter would now and then look up to her or Ned in a silent demand for meat, and they would both happily feed him. Once their meal was over they resumed their seats on his desk. Winter left with the servants to go for a walk forward/run after a hearty meal. Once they were both settled in properly, he continued. Now we have covered the economical, social and religious aspects of the North. We will now cover the military, technological and political aspects, and after that the most important part of Northern society, the preparations for the next winter. He said, and she nodded. We have covered some of it earlier, so it should take a little less time. Now first we will cover the technological aspect. As I told you, North not only houses Maestas but also the Order of Scholars. The scholars are the main driving force behind the technological advancement of the North. The scholars have made vast improvements in every field. They have found cures to diseases using the herbs found in the neck. They have made provisions for better storage of food and meat. Our ships have been modified for newer sets of sails which improve the speed and quality of our journey, and much more. They have introduced new and better farming practices and equipments which have increased our yield. They have introduced the use of fertilizers which are made from animal and food wastes. The scholars have also standardized weighing. We have measurements for length, distance and time, but we lacked a unit for weight. This has been a tremendous boon for the North, especially in food distribution. We can now weigh the exact amount of food that needs to be sent instead of having a vague figure like 10 bushels. They have made an apparatus to weigh anything, called a weighing machine. The standard weight is called a stone. A stone is equivalent to the weight of a 1 feet tall, 1 feet wide and 1 feet long slab of skagstone. It is now widely used in the north, and even Esosi are seeing the merits of such a weighing system. They have also introduced 2 new crops in the north. The lands of Cape Crooken, though not very fertile, are very humid. The scholars studied the growth of mushrooms and how to grow them. They then told them that knowledge, and now Cape Crooken produces several hundred stones of mushrooms every week and sells it to the rest of the north and also to Essos. The second crop that they have introduced is tomato. It has high tolerance to seawater and cold. It grows well in the lands of House Flint of Widow's Watch. It used to grow in their lands as a wild berry, but it has since been domesticated and now adds variety to the northern platter. They do not go bad if stored in a cold place, so it do not rot in the north for many years. So, as you can see, the scholars have become an integral part of our society. He said, and she nodded. A society which stands still and does not strive to make itself better deteriorates. She said, and he was glad that she understood their importance. But, I had one ulterior motive for establishing the Order of Scholars. And what is that reason? She asked. The Order of Maestas is an old order. They do not take part in the politics of the realm. But I had my suspicions, and they were proven correct, eventually. The Tyrells always knew how much food was in our stores and much food we would require to survive the winter. I first grew suspicious when I was 3 and we had a 3-year-long winter ahead of us. My father and mother were talking about buying food when a raven from the Tyrells came telling them about the price of the food and how much food they were prepared to sell. The price was ridiculously high and had the exact difference of our food stores and the amount of food we would need. And due to the restrictions forced upon us by Magor the Cruel, we could not buy it from Essos because we would have had to pay a very large amount of taxes on that. When I pointed it to my father, he cursed the southern spies, but I saw the smile of Wallace, the previous Maester of Winterfell, and knew he was involved. And I was proven correct. The Maesters claim that they stay neutral but are actually spies for the Tyrells. After all, it is the Tyrells and Hightowers who provide the most of the financing and protection. He said, and saw her shocked face. You are right. I never thought of it like that. She said. Also, the Maesters have a lot of duties. They are responsible for our health and communication. They also advise us on our course of action and teach our heirs and shape their minds. Don't you think they have a lot of power over us? He said, and he could see the wheels turning in her head. They have controlled the most important aspects of our lives. They can alter our communications or poison us slowly and blame it on fate or ill health. They shape the minds of our sons and daughters, teach them alternate history. They can give us ill advice. They can shape the fate of Westeros, and all that power lies with the Tyrells. Please tell me that Lewyn is at least honest and trustworthy. She said all that in a single breath. Yes, do not worry, Ashura, not all of the Maesters are bad, and I made sure that Lewyn is trustworthy as soon as he got here. He said. But then her face turned into horror. What about Princess Dyria, Elia, Prince Doran and my father? Are they being poisoned and the blame falls on the Maesters? She asked. I am not sure, as I have no knowledge of it. None of my spies have said anything about it, and I admit I never told them to, as the thought never crossed my mind. He replied after spending some moments thinking on it. Ned, if I may be prudent, I would like your Maester, or better yet a healer, to look into all the medicines my family takes, or are there symptoms concurrent with poisoning? Of course, Ashura. I will have the Order send in a grand healer to see your family, and also send my spies to Old Town, Hightower and Highgarden to uncover any plots that are afoot. I will also alert my spies in Dawn to keep an ear open about any plots concerning houses Martell and Dane. He replied. He could see the alarm and concern on her face, so he poured her a glass of whiskey to soothe her nerves. After she drank all of it in one gulp and calmed down. Thank you, very much, Ned. I hate to feel so vulnerable. If you do not mind, can you send healers as soon as possible? She replied in a small voice. Of course, Ashura. I will send a message to the Order of Scholars as soon as this meeting ends. And I will get to the bottom of this. I will not let harm come to any of my family members, and they are my family. I promise you, if there is any plot afoot, it will not end well for my enemies. We take care of our pack. He replied with passion and got a somewhat subdued but yet a beautiful smile from her as a reward. Feeling that telling her about the military power of the North might help her calm her mind, he continued. Now we move on to the military aspect of the North. He said and saw that she was once again giving her full attention. The North's military is divided into a lot of subgroups. There are those sworn to House Stark and then the ones of our vassals. House Stark currently has 4 different types of soldiers: Winter Wolves, Weirwood Warriors, Artillery Division and Sea Wolves. Winter Wolves is the standing army of House Stark. They are trained in all kinds of weapons and their only mission is to protect the North from internal and external threats. During peacetime they patrol the northern roads, villages, towns and cities. Due to their diligent work there are no bandits in the North. During wartime they are the ones we call to wage war. They are currently numbered at 80,000 men and women and every year 10,000 more join their numbers. Their numbers will keep growing until they are numbered at 350,000. Her eyes went wide at this. Knowing what she was going to ask next, he continued, and yes, we need that much numbers to ensure that even